We're going to call this Fire Exec Committee meeting to order here at 5 o'clock. 1.1 here in the agenda. This meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page using the following link: www.youtube.com/@town-of-Plympton-Wyoming/streams. Applicants, proponents, and delegates must make a request to eflynn@plympton-wyoming.ca to receive instructions on how to attend a meeting virtually as a participant. Attendees will not be permitted into the meeting using any name but their given name, and will only be permitted as attendee for the agenda item that pertains to them. Attendees will be dismissed following the hearing of their item, but can view the remainder of the meeting via YouTube. Item number 2 in the agenda, if anybody has a pecuniary interest, they can declare it now or any time throughout the meeting. Before we get started, officially here, I'd like to introduce the new chief, Eric Campbell. Very proud to have Eric on board with us here now. This will be Eric's first meeting. So we'll try to get in as much as we can and see what we can get him to agree to. So Eric, welcome. And do you want to just say a couple of words?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just happy to be here. I'm very proud that Plympton-Wyoming is taking a chance on me to be the chief, and I look forward to serving everyone and doing our best to keep everybody fire smart and fire safe.
Thank you, sir. And also welcome to your better half, Stacy.
I believe she's watching right now.
Thank you. I apologize for not doing that the other night. After I got home, I thought, I know how to mention Stacy. So welcome, Stacy. Okay, moving on here, 3.1 in the agenda there was moved by Gary Atkinson, seconded by Christian Rodriguez. The minutes be adopted by the Fire Exec Committee, and the confidential minutes of the closed sessions of committee remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. We've got the Fire Exec Committee meeting August the 14th and the closed Fire Exec Committee meeting August 14th also. So is there any business arising from those minutes? Any changes, spelling errors, anything you want to change?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can provide, I guess, another update for the antique fire truck. The truck, the body itself is back at Wyoming Station. The engine's been removed. Broadway service, they've pulled it out, but it's just something that's more than what they're looking to get into. So we do have a lead on a individual, a mechanic in Sarnia that is interested and is putting a quote together on the rebuild of the engine itself. Won't be anything that's done within a month or two. It's kind of work through the winter. The idea would be having it back, a way to put it back into the antique on springtime roughly, and hopefully have it ready for kind of the events that start the first part of the year in May.
That's awesome. Any comments on that?
That's good. So we're waiting for the final go ahead. It's on a pallet. It just will need to be transported into Sarnia to the shop. He's put a price together for all the parts and stuff that need to be ordered.
Yeah, so we had somewhere around 12,000, did we not? $6,600 grant.
6,710.
67 plus the town that agreed to match it.
Yeah.
So that's really the beginning. So if we need any more than that, we'll have to budget for it accordingly. And we're not going for full restore, so that's going to make a huge difference.
This is so far what we've requested is to get it into operation, like get it, be able to run and drive easy. Everything mechanical that they've looked at so far, the only thing we've had to do is purchase a battery so far, but yeah, the wheels are okay, the brakes are okay, so mechanically, it's not looking too bad. There's one cylinder that's seized and some lifters need to be replaced, but really requires an engine rebuild, so we're first getting a price on that.
Okay, and I guess just something else on that. I'd like to thank Brian Freer, certainly from the association, taking a lead on that project. We really appreciate that, and he certainly stepped up to the plate, and we're looking forward to that old truck back on the road. Thank your dad for that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I know the county just recently opened up the Creative County Grant, which is, I believe, is the grant that we obtained last year for the fire truck. So if we're going to be using the majority of those funds to do the body restoration and the inspection, we may want to consider using that quote that we're going to receive shortly to apply for a second round of funding from the Creative County Grant to get the engine up and going and then the truck back on the road.
Okay. I know other than the motor, probably hoses and ladders, I don't know all that. Some of that's gonna have to be upgraded too, I think, so. They need some more money. Yes, Kristen.
Thank you. Chair Wilbert,
Yes.
I know this is, I think part of the expenses are on our expense list and.
On the same topic?
Yeah, so, like, isn't it in the expense? sheet? I thought I saw that.
Yeah, it's in the past set of minutes we talked about it, so Chris would just.
So we're talking about.
I don't see why you can't address it right now. It's on the old fire truck.
I thought I saw.
Saying it in the expense sheets under August or September.
Oh, diagnose your chart coming September.
$1,401.07. Yeah.
Was that all for that same?
Yes, it wasn't on. I just didn't know where we were at with the funds we had used to know.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, some of that has Rescue 6 repairs in that, including that as well.
Yeah.
There was a separate bill for just the work that's been completed so far on that truck, and I don't quote me exactly, it was $500.
So there's a very small bill for $388.22, I think is what it said.
Okay,
Yeah, right, because it's all lumped into that one.
that's right.
Right, there's hydraulics.
Oh, no, I pulled up my other stuff.
Oh, okay, so you're
Sorry.
seeing something I'm not. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm seeing something that you're not seeing,
Okay,
and it's very small,
okay, so we hardly touched.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want.
unless there's been another bill since I
Believe they're putting together one more for their labor that they've done
Okay.
so far.
yeah, I think this was just a
Yes, that was.
battery or something.
Yeah.
Any other questions out of the previous minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh. Gary.
The next one, I'll have a motion for business arising from previous minute items at which you don't have any motions for them, so they're just for discussion purposes for each one of those.
And so I.
Never rings.
Closed.
Plympton-Wyoming, Adam speaking.
I've never heard that.
Okay. You want to hold them, I'll be right with you. Be right back. I thought it might be an emergency since no one
No,
ever
that's-
calls that phone, but it's just a question about a tax bill. So
You want me to go?
if you can, that might be easier.
Okay, 4.1. Your business arising or below business arising there, review fire master plan recommendations. You have them in your minute, in your package here. So I was looking over them, several of them have been complete. So I think maybe as close as we can, go over these and eliminate the ones that have been done. Keep on, I mean, this is a long-term plan, this fire master plan anyways. Some have been completed, so. If anybody's got anything, Garrett?
Chairman, the local OFM advisor and myself met on Friday. We are going to set up a municipal officials essentials course. We're gonna try and do an in-person one. There are a couple different options, but we're just starting to look at dates right now, and he's gonna get back to me with a couple possible dates. So that we can then from there go with what works for the folks that need to take the training. We're trying to set something up where we can get the Office of Emergency Management perhaps in the morning and the OFM in the afternoon.
Okay, so that's under number 1 there, correct?
That's correct, sir.
If I may ask,
Yep.
is this
Sure.
for us or just for you?
No, through the chair, it would be for, it's geared towards folks like yourselves who are elected officials. Just to give them an idea of what the rules and regulations, and legislation is involved in the fire code and the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, and your roles and responsibilities as well. It's really good. I've had the opportunity to attend one as a fire suppression member, and I'll be honest, most of the questions ended up being for me and the other chief that was there. But it was really, really informative, and the council members came away with a really good understanding. So I think it will be a great opportunity for all folks that can attend, that should.
Okay, so for council as a whole,
Yeah, if possible. Now, of course, we understand that we may have to. There's also an option to take the training online. But I would prefer, and I think it would be best in everyone's best interest if we could take it as an actual training so that you can have the opportunity to ask questions directly to those representatives.
Seems like a good plan to me. Okay, we're gonna, number 2 there, we'll try to go through these fairly quickly as we can. I don't think that one's been done yet. I'm not gonna read them all, you guys. Number 3, recommended town Plympton-Wyoming update job descriptions for the fire chief, administrative assistants, and district chiefs. Now, the notes say, job descriptions updated for the fire chief, executive assistant, and corporate services. Is that all we need? What about the district chiefs?
Those ones will need to be updated. I guess that can be something staff works on in the future. Once you get some people settled in roles and other hiring done, the senior manager level.
Okay, so the district chiefs are not done. The new chief's position, obviously, we just hired him. It better be good. So,
back to number 2, is that in something that's on future work?
So we will be taking a look at the establishing and regulating bylaw at some point in the near future. I look at it and of course, we're gonna have to, I'll have some recommendations coming up in the next few months as to how we can just, tighten some areas up and make sure that we're where we should be. It's nothing major, but it is something that I'm reviewing to bring recommendations forward.
okay. Number 4 there, recommend Wyoming Fire documents all administrative process and create standard operating policy and procedures for all administrative functions. That's ongoing. District chiefs, yes, go ahead.
If I may, I'm gonna have comments on stuff, so I apologize if I'm in turn. So the district chiefs and I have already started having conversations about updating SOPs and SOGs. And looking at how we administer them, as well as updating our software to allow us to do a lot of that information and stuff. So again, we'll be going through those as we move forward. I'm still having some IT issues on my end. So hopefully as those get resolved, I'll get more access to a lot of those forms that we can make, so we can then go forward with making changes as per requirements. From what I've seen, a lot of them aren't in bad shape. We just need to tweak them a bit and do some minor changes.
So my comments on this, we're learning a lot of the lingo, so my apologies, but I remember in the master plan, it referred to standard operating guidelines and changing the protocol to standard operating policies and procedures, or SOPs. Which I think this is referring to, but in previous discussion, I think the thought process was that SOPs weren't really liked because they sometimes aren't realistic, whereas guidelines allow you a little bit more leeway.
Yeah, actually, I'll explain the difference. So SOGs are that, they're standard operating guidelines, so they're a best or accepted practice. But needs and circumstances may change the requirements, so you may have to deviate from what would be those accepted practices. And every fire scene we go to is different, so we may have to very much change those. And as long as an incident commander can go to that practice and say, okay, this is the best under the ideal circumstances, but in this situation, we're gonna have to, change from this situation to this, that's acceptable. A standard operating procedure is more of a concrete situation. So we may have standard operating procedures. For example, when you return to the hall, our standard operating procedure is you must wash the truck. That's non-negotiable. You must do it, right? There's no reason that you shouldn't, right? Whereas we may have a guideline that says you must ensure A and B are done on the truck when you return it. But if the needs and circumstances are that you never used A, B, or C, then you obviously wouldn't have to do that. Or we're in a situation where the truck is returning to service however means, and it's just not able to be done. One, it allows you the flexibility, the guideline allows you the flexibility, the procedure is a must do. So yes, we probably will have both at some point. We're gonna have certain things that are gonna be procedures. I can pretty much guarantee you that. And then we're gonna have a number more that are gonna be suggested guidelines. And we don't necessarily generate those guidelines. The Section 21 committee, which is a committee of folks put together through the OFM, the Ontario Fire Marshal, actually gives us those directions through those guidelines. So we aren't reinventing the wheel, we're just massaging them for our local needs.
Okay, so it'll be a combination of,
Yes, that's correct.
and then you touched on software. We talked about it a couple times in the past about current Fire Pro that's being used. The county wants the software to be in an iCloud. And I know when I briefly looked, like it was available on cloud, but I'm not totally sure.
Absolutely. So I've already been in contact. It's one of the first things I did was get hold of Fire Pro and have those conversations. So we've been emailing back and forth. They're now speaking with our IT folks on the other end. So we're hoping that we can get this issue resolved fairly quickly. And I'll be honest, updates were not done for a while, and that could be part of it. So certainly that has been addressed and will continue to be addressed until we can do it. It is a product that's available, and it literally is just a matter of updating things. DC Freer and I were actually talking today, and there is even an option where we may be able to include the new dispatch system in that Fire Pro program, even streamlining things a little bit more. So we're going to look at that option as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because we did talk about that in a previous meeting, how it was compatible.
So
Dispatch service.
no, it was,
I'm glad to hear that.
it was on my list right away. It's one of those ones that if we don't deal with it right away, it's going to make a number of other pillars kind of not go in the direction we want to. So it has to be dealt with very quickly.
Wow, you've been busy.
Just doing my job now.
Just
Good to hear.
one follow-up question on that. Apparently we have policy procedures that these safe operating guidelines need to be updated every 3 years?
I'm gonna have to look at it, but it's suggested for the most part that we're gonna review those probably almost every year, depending on what they are. And it might be just as simple as us going through and saying there's no change and signing off. So again, through our officers meetings, my hope is to do a review of X amount every officers meeting and saying, okay, we will then look at you know, this one needs to be set aside, we've got to do some changes to it, this one can carry on. And then we'll reintroduce them at the next officer meetings with those changes so that we're all on the same page.
You, sir. Any other questions on that particular item? If not, we'll move to number 5 there. Recommendation fire department budget be centralized and administered. I believe we're there. We're one budget now, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think we can eliminate that. I believe we were there last year also, were we not, Norma? We did one last year, one budget. Combined,
Last year?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we can take number 5 out of there. Anybody disagree with that? Number 6, recommendation town of Plympton-Wyoming creates 2 deputy fire chief positions. I'd say that one's ongoing, but
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, if I may, yeah. We're, I know we've explored, we've already been talking about some alternatives to that, which would be more suitable for our municipality. Certainly, that is an option, but I think that there's better options available to us that are probably more realistic, and probably a bit more fiscally responsible.
so you'll be talking about that in the future.
I will.
Number 7, recommendation dedicated part-time administrative assistant position is created at Plympton-Wyoming Fire at least 3 days a week. with Yearly review of workload requirements. Adam?
So we have been reviewing the positions over the last 6 months. Ella took on the corporate services administrative assistant, executive administrative position just about 6 months ago. Has done a great job of bringing it up to speed. So we're looking at plans to adjust a number of our administrative positions. With a lot of mat leaves ending and vacancies being filled, we're gonna sit down after everyone's into their new roles and look at each role to see where we can shift some responsibilities from each role to make it more efficient between those roles. So we are looking at ways to assist with that, and we don't necessarily think it has to be dedicated to 3 days per week, that we can work within the current structure. If it becomes aware that that current structure is not going to work, we would definitely revisit this recommendation. But I think at this time, we can work with our existing administrative structure for the foreseeable.
Okay. Number 8, recommendation, the fire chief should establish key performance indicators for all divisions activities for council review and approval, regular reports on the KPIs. It says to be completed as part of the strategic planning process for 2023 to 2026 council term. So that's ongoing.
It is, Chair, Mr. Chair, I'm just getting on the ground, so I haven't really had a chance to. I've already coming up with ideas in my head. It works a little faster than my fingers sometimes.
Okay, no problem. Number 9, staff report. And any gaps that can affect the meeting of the benchmarks once the KPIs are established. This will improve future activities in all divisions. And that's same with the one above, ongoing.
I would refer to the one above.
Number 10, the fire chief, we do, Adam, yes.
In your comments next to those 2 markers in regards to the KPIs, you note that they would be part of the council strategic planning process. Is that the right place for it?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Stole your thunder.
No, you didn't.
Is that not something that was more internal to this committee and to the fire department as a whole, not necessarily in the greater strategic plan? It's gonna get lost in the strategic plan. It's not gonna have the same meaning as it's with this group.
Well, if I may add to that, I just don't think, I think that's mandatory as part of fire services responsibility to report to council. So because council is overseeing the fire department, so we have to understand how it's functioning. That way we can make decisions whether we need to make different adjustments or increase budgets, whatever. So I don't think it's like it's not an optional thing we discuss about it in the strategic plan. It's kind of like visions and goals. It's something that should be being done. Is that kind of tapped into what you're saying?
It would be a semi-regular report that you bring back, giving council, like we do with building services or planning, where you have a report. These have been the activities, these is where we met expected service levels, these is where we did not meet expected service levels, and recommendations on how we can better if there was a number of times where we didn't meet. So I don't think the strategic plan is the right place for it. I think that should be a biannual report at a minimum, if not a little bit more, but I think that's something that the chiefs should probably discuss in their level of comfort to make a recommendation back to us. What would be a fair?
Where
amount
do
to
these
be
words,
report
where these words come from anyways, the strategic plan
That was in the document already, so.
from the guys that did the study.
No, I think those are internal notes. It was just in the document already when I put it on the agenda. So I changed a few of them. I didn't touch that one.
Yeah.
Sounds like I should have.
That's good. Okay, thank you. And number 9, no, yeah, we already did that. And fire chief investigates further opportunities, new software. I think that's, we just talked a little bit about that, and that's an ongoing, looking at all of that.
That's correct.
You've only just been here. Yeah. Recommendation, Plympton-Wyoming purchase dispatching service at the meet the intent of NFPA. Switch over to Sarnia Dispatch in the works, should be completed in the fall of 2023. Is that still?
So I just actually met with the county coordinator prior to coming here. And so basically, there's a couple of factors at play. One particular individual that's key to this all is on holidays right now, and she will be returning next week. It is Bell has requested 60 days prior before we can actually do the switch over. So once that notification is done, then 60 days later, we'll be actually switching over. So we don't have a concrete date yet, but it has to be done prior to the 31st of December, where our contract with CACC expires at that point. So we're hoping to get it done sooner than later, because it would be it's a bit of a pain to switch dispatchers in the middle of the winter season. So we really want to get that done as soon as possible. And part of that too is that we have to develop our own SOGs and SOPs for how we're going to interact with those. And the district chiefs and myself will be sitting down this week to finalize those documents.
Yeah, and who, I think I sent an email a while back about, if you're switching over to Sarnia, who's in charge of the mapping? Who would do all of that? With Sarnia Dispatch and hydrants and,
So we would provide them with the GIS documentation, and then they would update their systems. And I think, sir, that Adam might be better to speak to that, but from my understanding is the GIS documentation, we already have it. It's just a matter of putting it in a format that they can upload it into their system.
Chair, if I may. So the original system that you're currently using was developed off of the flow testing that we did on our hydrants almost 5 years ago. Part of those requirements for the flow testing is that the contractor developed a GIS layer, attached all the flow tests to it, which we uploaded into county GIS, which I believe somewhere along the line was uploaded into the fire department system. So once we have uploaded it into our GIS, updated all of the flows, attached all the inspection sheets, we can then take that what's called a shape file, provide it to the fire department, and then they can have their service provider uploaded into their system.
That's correct.
so you'll be working closely with them in the switch over anyways, because you said CAC, their contract ends at the end of the year.
31st of December, yeah. So
So certainly with some provisions that they were just not going to supply in the future, my understanding.
I can't speak to that, sir. But what I know is that right now, as we prepare to make the switch, we're providing them with everything we can, including those GIS documents. But we are in a bit of a holding pattern until this one individual returns from vacation. And then once that individual returns from vacation, then we go, we were also waiting on the police services board for the city of Sarnia to amend their budget because they have to hire additional personnel. I believe that has passed. So my understanding from the county coordinator, a fire coordinator, that's already in place. So it's just a matter now. They're also gonna have to hire additional personnel.
Okay, and number 13, there's connected with that same dispatching there, statistical reporting. At least yearly to reflect the NFPA 1221 call answer dispatch percentages. I'm assuming that will all be worked out under the same contract. 14, recommendation to proactive smoke alarm smoke CO alarm program. Town of Plympton-Wyoming be established. Kristen, that was one thing that you had brought up, so you might want to ask on that one.
Thank you. And I would almost add it with 15. The recommendation for additional public education programs should be implemented to assist in improving fire and life safety in the community. I would almost like to see that incorporated with a smoke and CO so that there's that level of understanding to the public out there with, of these expectations and what we have in place to be proactive in the fire inspections, and there's a little bit of an education.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my previous background being in prevention as well. I would agree. Those two are key components and they should be incorporated together. I've been pondering some ideas. I want to sit down and kind of come up with a couple options of plans and bring them back to us, or bring back to this board, and then we can kind of figure it out from there. There's certain things that I have to look at, and I think with the help of particularly the two DCs, we can come up with some good ideas. As far as a smoke alarm program, I do believe that it can only be successful with an adequate and prolonged public education program. They are key. They work together hand in hand. One cannot be successful without the other. So.
Thank you. I agree totally. And I do know we've had kind of in-depth conversations about the smoke CO. So I know there were some emails back and forth. I don't know if those could be shared with our new chief. Kind of what we were looking at, and then it gives you an idea and you can tell us whether, yeah, that's no good or good or.
There's also a few options available through the OFM. We're not reinventing the wheel, right? We just have to massage something that's going to work for us and our needs and circumstances. And certainly, working with the advisor and those folks, the two DCs, understanding the demographics and our target audience, I think we'll find that we can come up with something that everybody will agree that we'll give it a go and see what happens.
Okay, sounds good.
In one of our sister municipalities, I just read it in the paper, they're handing out dual alarms as supplied by a local insurance company, but they're going door to door. And a very significant amount of these are being, if you need one, be handed out. Yeah, I wasn't gonna mention any.
Oh, sorry.
And I've done that in the past where we've actually, in organizations that I've worked for, where we just go ahead and we purchase them through the Fire Safety Council. They're actually not that expensive.
Yeah.
And, and we hand them out at different, events, and the opportunity arises door to door wherever we can. The goal here ultimately is to get one in every residence, right? And get everybody compliant. There's a number of different ways that we can do that. So certainly that's an option as well.
Yeah, we can talk about that one because there was issues around local businesses selling them, and we started giving them out. There was that kind of a discussion, but when it comes to safety, I think we can go ahead.
I think the DCs can confirm this. We did do a program many years ago where we provided a bunch of those, did we not?
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I think that's an important one for sure.
Well, I think Jordan mentioned that if you're attending a fire or something, or a false alarm, whatever, they have them in their vehicle.
If we come to your house and ultimately the smoke alarm isn't working, we just just out of sheer liability, we are not going to leave that residence unprotected. So they will have a smoke alarm installed, or a CO alarm installed. That will happen. That's not even an option.
Excuse me. Okay, number 16 there, municipality ensures the fire chief or the deputy fire chief certification to NFPA 1031 for certified inspection services are contracted to meet the intent of FPPPA and the ENR bylaw 12 of 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I am certified and I will be looking after inspections as part of my contract. And with that, of course, I'll be in any firefighter that wishes to take the training and wants to work with and assist to that in their own time. As part of as part of their role, I'm sure that we would welcome that opportunity for them to do so. In fact, we've already had we had with fire education, or sorry, Fire Prevention Week, I'm sorry. One of our firefighters took a very, very active role. And I'm actually looking at recommending that she take the 1035 program, which is the Fire Life Safety Educator program as well. And she seems very excited about that option, so.
Okay, yep, we're looking forward to that one. Working on that one for sure. Okay, number 17, fire chief recommends to council an increased level of service to the recommended fire inspection. Well, that's all part of that. 18, recommendation to public education program inspection schedule recommended. Once again, part of the above. 19, recommendation fire chief or deputy fire chief be certified in fire cause determination. And the district fire chiefs be trained to investigate the initial fire scene. What would your comments, chief, be on that?
I do hold a 1033 investigator's designation. And I'm experienced in that role. As well as I'm gonna look at talking to the DCs. I believe there is some interest. We will, of course, get them up to stuff to perform that role in my absence as well. So that will be the long-term plan. That is a very extensive course, and the OFM right now is going through some changes on how they deliver it. So that's not one that's going to happen very quickly, but it will happen over, I would say, the next 18 months is probably a realistic time frame.
So who would do that now in these major fires?
It ultimately will fall to me, sir. In my role.
Our previous chief would have certified to do that, the fire inspections,
He was working on it,
investigations.
he was working on his courses, but
He couldn't do it. Who? Bring in the fire marshal?
we bring in the UFM. That and if anything suspicious, large dollar exposure, or anything else, the UFM's coming in anyways. We must notify them, so.
So there's 7 different environments that we have to call the OFM and notify them when a fire takes place. There's a number of them. It goes from a fire worth X amount of dollars to a fire that is a suspected grow up or things like this. There's a number of them. And so any of those circumstances, of course, I'm going to call the OFM and I'm going to say, this is what I see. And they will make the decision on whether or not they're going to attend.
Okay. 20 there. Related to the above. 21. Chief Building Inspector provide the following information to the chief of the fire department with respect to buildings described above. The dates, the permits are issued, the rest of the building, and the description of the floor and the roof system. I think that's happens now, but
Yeah, we're involved in it. And I did thanks to the deputy clerk setting it up. We had the opportunity to meet with the folks that represent the chief building official and stuff today. And we started to have those relationships, and we're gonna start having more effective conversations when it comes to stuff like that.
Number 22, another recommendation, the fire chief reviews the fire department training plan, and establish a plan to ensure the department meets the intent. Reg 3043-22 firefighter certification for the levels service as set out by council. There's a note ongoing.
And that will continue to be ongoing, Mr. Chair. Again, we've been having some discussions on how we're going to fulfill that and ensure that it's happening. We have one particular captain right now that's very eager and helps us out a lot. And of course, I'm taking full advantage of that.
So is this in reference to the certifications that we had to do for grandfathering?
So grandfathering just ended. And I believe we had some folks go through it, am I correct? Yeah. So we're going back to another way of doing certifications, but I'll be honest, comparable to some of our some other fire departments and other municipalities, we're in pretty good shape. There's a lot of other municipalities out there that are struggling. Yes, these are not easy requirements. And certainly they present us with a challenge, but we're in much better shape than a lot of municipalities that are similar size. So, excuse me, similar size. So I think that as we move forward, we will be, obviously, we will be able to meet those requirements. The question is the method that we get there. But I want you to understand that we are in pretty decent shape. We're not, like, this is not, we're not gonna be the picture falling off the wall here. We're actually doing well.
My understanding was there's about half a dozen, maybe.
It's not a high number, and you know, if you consider there's other departments out there with well over 100 firefighters, and in some cases, less than 25% are certified. We're doing well.
I would agree. I think there's kind of some expensive costs that may come with that.
And again, if I may, we are looking at options that we can still do that and mitigate some costs. And I think we have some good ideas. It's just a matter of getting all that generated and sitting down and putting it on paper. I've only been here for a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to get that stuff done. And that, I'll try that excuse until you say I can.
So you're saying that we do have firefighters that did not get certified?
Well, we have firefighters that under the grandfathering either weren't eligible or we don't know if they've been successful yet because the testing results aren't in yet.
Because I thought we were meeting, I thought everybody was gonna be grandfathered. I didn't think we had any outstanding.
No, legacy program that you had to be on suppression for 2 years. So we've had new recruits in the last 2 years. They did not meet that criteria, but they're also, we've been working with them as well. They've all taken our Plympton Fire Academy, that which teaches NFPA or 101, 1001, 1002. That so all they have to do is now challenge the exam.
You just can't do the grandfathering. They've got to do that.
Yeah. Of course, but they got all the schooling and everything else.
They would literally have to rate the test and then move forward.
Mr. Chair, and this was the certification process we went through back in February.
Yeah.
In-house completed our OFM testing for. There was about 10 to 12 firefighters that took it. Some of them were only able to write to a certain point just because of their experience they have so far. So that is something that the chief has mentioned we are going to pursue again, most likely in the new year, but to finish the rest and everybody else that has not been included yet.
Okay, number 20. The fire chief's reviews annual training plan to include training for senior firefighters. Provides a balance of lecture style with hands-on training at all firefighters. That's ongoing also. You know, at the time of that particular training, they talked about some extra training, their shift workers. Talking about maybe some weekend stuff. There was quite a discussion around.
Yeah, we've been looking at that, pondering it. We do have a pretty high percentage of those folks that do work in Sarnia and do work at shipyard. So we've been looking at a couple different options of how to maintain their level of training. You know, and we actually are in pretty good shape. We have a number of our people that do training, that conduct training, that are also shift workers. So we're hoping that we can work around that and offer at least one day a month where at some point in time where it will be convenient for everybody to kind of come in, even if it's during the day, and I have to personally run them through the training. I think it will be invaluable for those people, and I do believe that the dedication of the folks involved, they will come in and do that. So we're in good shape that way. I think we have some good ideas. Again, we'll come back to this group and tell you what our results are.
And number 24 talks to that also, accommodate night shift worker schedules. And then a lot of this, chief, just for your knowledge, there comes out of the working document at the time we were having some problems. A lot of this would come from the fighters, not a lot of it. It all came from the firefighters. So you get an opportunity to go back and look at that original working document. I know we've gone through most of it and accomplished a lot, but there's still outstanding stuff there. Some of it talks about this. So this is their ideas and wanted some different training times. Okay, moving on here. Number 25, recommending Wyoming Fire establish a recruit training program. And meets the NFPA 1001, FF 1 and 2, firefighter 1 and 2. The details are limited emergency response abilities, capabilities. As the recruit works through the program.
So myself and the DCs, again, we've discussed this as well. Yes, excuse me, the program is in place, but under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, we're required to make sure that anybody who responds is considered competent. So we're looking at what our options are going to be for new folks when they come on to us, at what point in time we're going to consider them competent enough to be issued their pager and respond to incidents. And I know right now, things have been done a couple different ways. What we want to do is get a procedure that's down on paper that says, once you've achieved this level of competency, right, and it's been confirmed through a program that we would consider making you competent, meaning training and some sort of, competency check that says you're good to go. At that point in time, you would be issued your pager and able to respond. And even then, you would be limited to certain types of incidents, right? For example, if we chose firefighter NFPA 1001 level 1 as that point, you would only be able to respond to, say, a structural firefighter, and then you are structural fire, and you would only be able to respond, understand that you cannot go internal to that fire. There'll be certain limitations there, right? So however we go through that process, then we'll get something concrete on paper that says this is where we're going. Again, we can bring that back to you folks and we can discuss it.
I think part of that particular discussion was the medical response also, which at that time going back a bit, there was some firefighters that would respond to medical assists and in fact weren't qualified or certified. So that was changed, that was removed. So you could not.
And the medical side, we do have to have further conversation over in the future. We have to look at what we're going to use as an accepted standard for that. And of course, we'll bring that back to you folks. And ultimately, it is council that sets that level of standard. So again, that's one of those things that we got to go through and tighten up in the bylaw.
A couple of response there, wasn't it? The Red Cross, it was two things you had to be respond to. It wasn't just, remember, we thought it was just one.
Red Cross and the base hospital.
Yes, yeah, you had to, yeah. So
There, the issue as well is, is keeping everything current. It's not just a matter of what they are qualified. It's whether or not they're current or not.
Mhm.
And then, of course, keeping those skills sharp. So it's a combination of those three things as well.
okay, yeah, that 27 recommending Plympton-Wyoming fire trains all firefighters in the dangers of working with electric vehicles at emergency scenes.
Okay, it's that one, Mr. Chair. We did have that included earlier in the year, training nights. Some electrical vehicle safety on scenes. Yes,
You did do it? Or?
yes.
And if I may speak a little further, I was talking to, again, our county coordinator today and the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs as well. As requested more direction from the Ontario Fire Marshal's office. And of course, the Ontario Provincial Police as well, because with the 400 series highways, with fires and electric vehicles, it has the possibility to mean significant length closures of that roadway. So we've actually we would like some more direction from our provincial counterparts to say this is the direction we'd like to go.
I don't know if it's in here somewhere, but what about solar panels and that's all to do with electrical too? What do you do with that? Because there's a lot of them around.
Sure.
Yeah, but the solar panels, most firefighters now should be trained on what to do with them, and I just basically leave them alone. Solar panel never truly stops.
Right.
Generated electricity, right? We do our best to isolate them during a fire situation. We treat it like any other live electrical item that we would during our training.
So is that something you would talk to the firefighters? They all know, they well know, don't.
That's part of NFPA firefighter 2 now, I believe.
Number 28 there, Plympton-Wyoming Fire be trained in MFP 1006 heavy vehicle expedition techniques and acquire the necessary equipment to perform those extrications and keep firefighters as safe as possible. I mean, you guys. You see some wrecked cars over behind the Wyoming Fire Hall.
That's basic auto X, what they're talking about is heavy rescues for transports, buses, everything else. I did set one up in June, but unfortunately I had to cancel it because the response. Just to be with people busy.
So, from my previous experience, I've got a few contacts that we can get hold of to do some training in that regard. And as we develop the new training schedule, I would suspect probably for 2024, we'll be incorporating that as well.
Okay, number 29, town Wyoming make available senior officer training, educational opportunities with a focus on the senior officer positions of chief, deputy chief, and district chief for future succession planning.
I don't want to dive into this too much, but we certainly, we've already had some conversations about that amongst the DCs and myself and even some of the captains. About certain succession planning that we have to look forward to. And what does that mean? And certainly that's an ongoing conversation and probably will never be complete. But because as our needs and circumstances change, but certainly that common training will be taking place as well. So there's certain training that I would like to see all of our incident commanders take place in, not just all senior net managers or senior level officers within the department. And we're looking at that as well. And that ranges from some basic leadership stuff all the way to incident command training and so forth. Even just how we make sure we all talk on the radio the same way. Right. So it all stems, it's all kind of the same big mix. And once that kind of aligns, then our succession planning as people move up within the chain will become easier and easier.
Very good.
I think this item is an extremely important item here for the future because I've been here a long time and you know what, we never seem to have much of a plan for succession. In other words, we need somebody and I think we need to have some kind of direction on.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. That's kind of what we're getting at, right? It's trying to, okay, what level are our captains at, right? And can our captains fill a DC position if necessary? Can a DC fill in for the fire chief? And absolutely, we have two very competent DCs that can do that. But what happens if we lose one of these fine DCs? And it's an unfortunate reality. People move on.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Do we have somebody that's in the breach that's ready to move up into that role? And that's obviously a very big concern for me in my role. So I agree with you.
Yeah, we need to talk about that one sooner than.
To that too, yeah, I totally agree with your approach there, because it will make it easier to do, providing that training to everybody at an equal level, regardless of seniority. Will help transition that much easier.
It also puts us on the same page when we respond.
Okay, number 30 there, the town of Plympton-Wyoming established KPIs for emergency response travel time based on NFPA 1720 for council's consideration for approval. And the performance is monitored annually to determine if a potential relocation of a fire hall is to be required in the future to continue to achieve council's established KPIs.
If I may, Mr. Chair, since we haven't really established those KPIs yet. Certainly that is something we need to look at. We also have to keep in mind when the master plan was written, we appreciate it and understand it, but I'm not sure that the full understanding of the time that it takes a volunteer just to respond to the hall. And that was fully understood when that was written. And we have to understand that unlike a career department, our firefighters aren't sitting in the hall all the time, they're responding from their homes, their workplaces. So that assembly time, as we like to call it, has to be taken into account too. And when we're talking about halls and if we have to relocate them, of course, we would have the business case to do that. We also have to talk about looking at where our halls are currently located. In Wyoming, we have a large amount of our firefighters that live very close to the hall. In Kamlaki, we have the same thing, right? Where our firefighters are not traveling great distances to the hall. So when we look at relocating halls, we have to understand that that assembly time will change. And that could increase our response time. So those are all factors that have to be brought into that prior to us even really exploring this.
Yeah, and I think, just after,
You sure can.
in our previous meetings, we kind of discussed it a little bit about those response times to give, it helps council have a good understanding of where the needs are and how it's working. Right, so we have a good understanding and can make decisions. We can't if we don't know.
Absolutely.
So I think one of the key points that was brought up by the district chiefs was because there's an app where you can say you're responding, which helps give you those response times or how much time it took to get to the scene and things like that. And how many people was just cell towers are having that ability by the time, you know, they do all that and, you know, when there was frustration with some of that, which was kind of unfortunate.
Certainly, it is a challenge. You know, the Who's Responding app is a wonderful option. But I've seen it where my pager's gone off and then it's 2 minutes before my Who's Responding app goes off. It's the nature of cell service, right? So I'm not sure that using that tool alone would give us an accurate dictation of what's going on. I think it might in fact skew those response times. So I think if we're looking at doing something like that, we need to do it on multiple levels so that we're cross-referencing that. The other issue there is that, you know, when you're responding, a lot of time my pager's gone off and I'm already in the truck on my way to the call. I'm not gonna be fiddling with my cell phone to make sure that it's just not safe. So, you know, as much as we can rely upon that tool, it's great. It has really a lot of great features. I'm not sure that we would get a truly accurate picture from that tool alone.
Yeah, that's what they had both addressed too as well. We need new cell towers. Welcome to the lake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came from St. John's, so I've got no comment. 5 minutes in custody. We were lucky to get cell service, so.
You know, I do remember you having.
A 31 recommendation, fire chief amends OG 3010 to reflect the criterion to direct the incident commander in the decision-making process to utilize mutual aid when the emergency may become beyond the capabilities of the Plympton-Wyoming Fire Service.
So I haven't actually looked at the OG, but this is already a conversation we're having. We're already having this conversation as to, I encourage my incident commanders to, if they need more, call more resources. It's easier to stand down a resource than it is to call them when things are already going in a negative direction. So if commanders, for example, if the truck leaves a hall, and they think that police maybe haven't responded to the call, there's nothing wrong with them getting on the dispatch and saying, have police been dispatched to this call? And the same with if the need for tankers arises or some other issue comes about. My folks know, at least my DCs know, and I'm sure in the process of passing this on to their captains, they know that whatever they want, they get on the radio and ask for it. I don't have any issue with that, and the new SOG will reflect that.
I don't think we've ever had a problem with this. You guys, the incident commander, if he decides he wants, right? You don't wait for the chief.
Well, the notes is already there. All officers are currently empowered to call as the mutual aid as required, so.
So like this says the fire chief, but
I think
fire chief isn't always there. Are they also meaning the district chief? Are they also meaning the incident commander? That guy, this is kind of a,
It's just the fire chief to amend the OG, that so that
So
commanders who could be a senior firefighter.
right, can do make the note.
I think it was just a lack of any existing documentation.
that's right.
So you're already discussing it, so that's good.
And everybody has been trained, especially from the trained by the Ontario Fire College. First firefighter on scene automatically becomes the incident commander. Right, so, and then from there, incident command will travel either for a couple of reasons. One, it's outside the scope of that individual's capabilities. Two, the incident is getting larger beyond that individual's capabilities, or three, that it's one of those situations where safety is an issue. So ultimately, I have faith that all the firefighters responding to that scene know that step and they will ask for additional resources as required.
Okay, moving on there, 32 recommendations, fire chief established standard operating procedure that clearly indicates the tasks that can be performed at the scene of a structure fire based on the fire marshal's fire ground effective law.
Again, that's just a matter of us rewriting the OJ.
33, the fire chief establishes key performance benchmarks to strive to achieve emergency response times, including initial response and depth of coverage. We already talked a bit about that.
I believe that's a repeat, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
34, recommendation, fire chief transforms the OG into a procedure. It has staff utilize the APP, my goodness, all these acronyms, APP to indicate their response to the emergency call before commencing their response in their personal vehicle.
That's an app.
Well, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, so again, that goes back to the who's responding app, and I fully appreciate that recommendation. I don't think at all circumstances that would be advised simply because the app often goes off sometimes 2 or 3 minutes after the page goes out.
Like, I think that as we're going through this, and I know we're doing it tonight and it's taking a bit of time, but like if there's stuff on here that just isn't going to happen in the future, like we need to say it. And
I think that that's certainly one that I would agree that it's a nice to do, but I don't think it's realistic.
I think you just mentioned it really a couple questions before about how it's different levels that need to be different. It's a coming together of many different aspects to
Exactly.
create those key performance.
okay, number 35, recommendation Plympton-Wyoming Fire Department seek to achieve the superior tanker shuttle service accreditation, the FUS.
So the fire underwriter survey is FUS, and they're currently the only ones in Ontario that are issuing that certification. There is certainly a lot of bonuses to doing that, and I think that's something we should explore. But I think that should be brought back as an option to this panel again, to say if that's something we want to do. A lot of other folks that are in my role have found that there's a significant cost to it, and the cost isn't always weighing the benefit. And certainly, for the most part, we're very experienced with using tankers, right? Like, this is not new to us. I come from a department that we use tankers, right? We're rural. Tanker shuttle is something we do as a matter of practice. So the question is, do we want to spend the money on that actual certification?
So I'm hearing, if I may, that this is optional to get the
Yes.
certification. You don't need it to obviously to have these tankers.
No, there's nothing mandatory that says we have to do it. Obviously, where it becomes a good process is for our, the taxpayer, the folks paying for their insurance. There are some insurance breaks if we have that accreditation. Again, it would be up to the person that is insured if we were to achieve that, to then notify their insurance company. But again, that's one of the benefits. And I think that if we go down that route, which I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, I think that should be left to council to decide if that's something you want to do. And I'll present a business plan showing both sides.
Yeah, number 36, fire service agreement for the use of an aerial device is required by Plympton-Wyoming, or add an aerial apparatus to the fire department's fleet. The comments there, all officers are currently empowered to call for aerial apparatus as required. And I'm assuming we got Petrolia, you got Sarnia, you got a lot of options there. Anyways.
So just one thing that the firefighters may not be aware of is the town is in the process of applying for a CMHC Housing Accelerator grant. Part of that grant is looking to densify your residential housing to provide more cost-effective housing opportunities for your citizens. However, of course, they really push for building up, not necessarily out. So one item that we identified that would prohibit us from building up instead of out is the lack of an aerial in our fleet. So in that grant, as part of the costs associated with getting that grant, we did put the pricing in there for a aerial apparatus. So if we're successful in that portion of the grant, that could be fully covered by federal funding. If we're successful.
Yes.
So what constitutes needing an aerial lift?
What's the height limits?
It's currently it's anything over 5 stories that's involved in fire. Requires a ladder and or an elevated platform and a pumper. So if we had a building, say that was 6 to 7, say 6 or 7 stories high. If that 6th story is involved in fire, it would then require a ladder and a pumper. Now, there's nothing in that standard to say that we have to own it. Right? We just have to have something in place, which we do, that allows for us to call for it. All right, and really the only buildings around that, you know, we currently have that would constitute that would be, you know, elevated buildings that are used for agricultural use. They're not something that would be considered residential. So really that, we don't have that need. Where the CAO, I think, is going with this is as part of the future growth, we have to look at that.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna get it paid for, heck, why not? But, again, there's other parts of that we gotta keep in mind too. There's maintenance and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Well, and what was, I was, follow up to that was gonna be, what is there special training required for this?
Absolutely, yep. There's a program through the 1002 package. And then there's an aerial package as well that one would have to take, but again, a lot of that training could be done either in-house. And I guarantee if we get a new ladder truck, all the firefighters are gonna line up in droves to take it. But I think we really need to, I mean, obviously, if we're successful in that grant, that's something we have to visit. And we're gonna have to do a little bit of a business case there when it comes to understanding the cost of actually having it. We may not have and I'm not trying to sway you either way. I'm gonna tell you like it is. We may not have the facilities to house that, and that's something we have to think about.
And that grant is not, if we get it, you have to spend on the fire truck. It's if you get it and you build a building higher than 5 stories, then you can use that money on the fire truck. And it's very ambiguous, so you'd be able to use it on training as well. So it's not a set grant where this is what you said you may or may not do. You have to do it by this date. It's more of a grant where, like I said, if you can accomplish this, then you should use the money to do this. So it's very
Right.
ambiguous grant.
Well, and there's a lot of unknowns.
It's
still.
extreme amount of unknowns with this grant.
Yes, and if you get the grant, and then what is the developer gonna do?
Exactly.
If
So
you're getting 1 5-story building, is it worth it, right? So
Exactly.
there's a lot of.
it's very, the grant itself is worded very ambiguously to give us a lot of flexibility. So that if we don't accomplish certain things, we don't have to go out and buy certain things.
Which is good.
So
Okay, moving right along here, number 37, recommendation to maintain an annual recruitment process of volunteer firefighters to ensure the department addresses the vacancies created by firefighters leaving the fire department. Notes ongoing, the department places firefighters as required. I know we are down a few firefighters in Kamlaki. I think we're in pretty good shape in Wyoming, from what I understand, down 1.
Recruitment's on the agenda later on. Do we want to wait and talk about it under new business?
Will do, thank you. Number 38, recommendation, Plympton-Wyoming meets with the current volunteers on an annual basis, discuss or get feedback on current issues and find solutions to attract and retain volunteers. I'm sure. Hoping you do that more than annually.
So my personal plan coming new into the role is I will have the opportunity, hopefully over the next couple of months, and it's gonna take a while. There's 60 members. To sit down with every firefighter individually and get their take on some things and just have a good understanding. And hopefully, as we go forward, we're continuing to create a culture where all those firefighters feel that they're psychologically safe in their work environment, that they can come forward and have those comments as well. I think it would be advantageous for an opportunity where we could have perhaps this committee meet with the firefighters in a more of maybe a semi-social atmosphere. I think that would certainly be an advantageous thing to do.
Okay, 39, recommendation, Plympton-Wyoming establish, Adam?
Oh, sorry, I was gonna let you finish. And then I was,
Oh, Plympton-Wyoming establish designated alternates for senior staff. It's an alternate CEMC, Adam.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So recently, the mayor and I did take the BEM training. And we also recently passed a bylaw that designated Elizabeth Cummings, our drainage superintendent, as the primary CEMC. Our backup CEMC is currently the fire chief. The plans for long term is we recently advertised in conjunction with Warwick for a part-time CEMC. Warwick and myself are working on offering the ideal candidate to that position. That candidate is well-trained and ready to take on that role. So once they're in place, we'll amend the bylaw to make them the primary, and then the fire chief along with Elizabeth Cummings would become our alternates. And then we would continue to promote our senior managers and senior firefighters who wish to take the BEM or the CEMC training to do so, just to ensure we have as much staff trained up in this situation as possible, as well as eventually incident management for, especially for those firefighters.
And number 40 there is talking about the same thing, CMC. Alternates, ensure the depth of knowledge and continuity of the business. As recommended, the fire chief is no longer the primary CEMC, and I think that's the important point here. That's what we were after from the recommendations, so that's being achieved. 41 recommendation, annual updating the policies and process to ensure continuity of municipal operations if staff cannot work from their primary or alternate locations.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to.
I'm thinking, if I interpret this correctly, it's more like, okay, what are we gonna do if, say, for example, myself, my office isn't available for one reason or another, or alternatively, could I set up shop to do my job? And I think good things and bad things came out of the pandemic. One of the things that we've learned is that we can do that. And certainly part of that, of course, would be we've already designated primary and secondary EOCs, and that will be part of that as well. So I think we're in good shape that one.
So somebody must sent me an email on this one. So say we cannot work, say you have a major emergency, can't work here at town hall. Especially that scenario, you know, with the railroad tracks and everything there. Where is our alternate location that would have the facilities like proper internet net? Where would they go?
Alternate EOC, I believe. Where's the alternate EOC?
I thought it was the County of Lambton building or the community center.
I believe it's the community center, actually.
Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds, yeah. So
Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds is the reception center.
that's the reception. Okay, you got me all confused.
Well, somebody sent me an email on that and I did not have the answer to it.
So I believe we have our alternate EOC is designated. That's at the county building, isn't it?
I believe that is the situation. I think that's something we may want to look at reviewing, given the close proximity of the two facilities.
Yeah, and I believe that that's part of the recommendation here is that we look at that annually, but we should be looking at our emergency management plan annually anyway. So I think this is kind of a moot point. We're kind of crossing into the emergency management side of things when really, you know, this is something that we review annually as part of practice.
And it probably should be just straight from this list because it is an emergency management review more than fire department review. So it's probably something that doesn't need to be sitting on this list and coming back every time because it's something that should be updated through our emergency management staff.
I don't disagree. So number 41, we'll take it out of there.
I believe that.
So,
yeah. But I think it is a good question. If you have a major emergency here in the railroad track, where does your staff go? It sounds like you don't really know yet. You don't really know at this point.
I mean,
Go to the
I
county.
haven't asked the question, so maybe that's why I don't know.
You.
the last exercise I did, it was the county building.
Okay.
That being said, we would probably want to double check with county staff to make sure they're aware that we're all heading there still. Because they've had staff changing over as well, so and it may be worth revisiting given the close proximity to two facilities.
Okay.
So, let me clarify, so under the emergency management review of procedures, those types of things are looked at annually in a
They should be.
different forum? Is that what you're saying?
The emergency management committee is supposed to review the plan annually and update it as needed.
And yeah, okay, and it would include all this stuff.
It should.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
This is an area that we've been lax in. So we have stressed that we want to get on board and get up to speed with it. So the whole team is aware what's going to happen at any time. So with our new emergency manager coming in, that's one of the priorities that we've set for it.
I think it's important because when you talk about emergency, especially with railroad tracks and the highway and transport trucks. You know, things happen and then we've heard it out of one of our neighbors twice in the last little while. Oh, this didn't work or that didn't work or we didn't know. This day and age, they need to know where to go. So, okay, moving on. 42 recommendation telling the Plympton-Wyoming reviews the fleet rationalization schedule on an annual basis to ensure that the fleet replacement costs are updated to reflect the actual cost of the replacement vehicle and the equipment. And then the notes asset management plan ensures monies are allocated, appropriated in reserves to accommodate the fleet replacement in the future. And I've certainly had a couple of emails on this one, wondering where we're at, maybe thinking that we're just not up to speed on this, but we do budget for this. I know we're putting money away certainly for fire trucks. I know we're in pretty good shape, but you know, the way they'll all be coming due at the same time in probably about 15 years. There's some that needs to be replaced before that, but.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the DCs and I have had that conversation. And I think you're gonna see before the end of the year, we'll have some sort of life cycle management program in place when it comes to that. So that we do know when, of course, we recommended to you best replace those vehicles. You know, there are NFPA standards that require those vehicles to be replaced, but we have to understand that they're an NFPA standard. They don't necessarily reflect our needs and circumstances. We can't control, obviously, you know, we can't control certain incidents, removing those vehicles from service. The other end, if a piece of equipment is passing its annual servicing and annual checks and certification without any issues, we then would have to balance the need to take it from service just because NFPA says we have to. Right, that has to be, again, it goes back to our needs and circumstances as a municipality.
And I think we've discussed this recently. How we have fairly new vehicles in our fleet, so, and that we already were budgeting. But we're glad to hear you'll be bringing some updated information.
Yeah, well, I know way back when we were looking at getting some new trucks. Somebody made a statement more than once, in 18 years, you've got to replace the trucks. So I said, okay, I'm gonna find out. I talked to the fire marshal's office myself. And those are guidelines, and that's if your pumps no longer meet standards and the whole list of stuff. So it's not 18 years, it's at our discretion.
Exactly, it's based upon our needs and circumstances, as you know, and then again, if looking down the barrel of that, and it's something we'd be approaching council with anyways and saying, you know, we're gonna have some key, you know, love this term, key performance indicators within that piece of equipment that's gonna lead us to believe that it may not make its full service life. And when we have that sort of information, of course, we will adjust it based upon those needs and circumstances.
We've heard that from Public Works at times. Performance.
That's the perfect segue is I've actually, the chief and I talked about this just after you arrived. I just remembered to email it to him tonight. I provided the chief with my spreadsheet for the Public Works Fleet Master Plan. So you can take all the Public Works vehicles out, plop your own vehicles in, and then reuse a lot of the calculations in there. And we can work together to manipulate that spreadsheet so it does what the fire department needs it to do. And then it's in a format that council's already used to as well.
Good point. Number 43, recommending town of Plympton-Wyoming plan and exercise with their county planners at the operations level to facilitate exercising frontline staff on their roles and responsibilities within the Lambton County emergency plan. Yeah.
Again, this is, I think, something that should lie with the CEMC, not the fire department.
Anybody agree with that?
Just to give this committee an update, although it's again CMC that I should be providing this update to. I'm currently working with the Petroleum drinking water system on an emergency exercise that will involve us. And that may involve activating the CEMC to do a exercise. So that we can ensure that we're meeting our minimum guideline requirements.
Okay, no, I guess we got the authority to do this. This all comes out of the consultant's master plan, right?
Yeah.
So now we're sitting saying, no, that goes here and that goes there. We okay with that? That proper procedure? Okay.
So we'll likely ask Ella to do is just track the ones that are being put on the CEMC and then pull out them out of this document so that we have a list for the CEMC as well.
I might even leave them and just strike them through.
Yeah,
I mean, they're still within the recommendations, but it's clear they're not part of the fire side of things.
Although this was the fire master plan that created this for us, I guess is what I'm asking. That's fine. I would, as long as we're following protocol. Okay, 44, town of Plympton-Wyoming, looking at immediate and long-term solution options for acquiring an internet connection for the Wyoming Fire Hall. That's done, is it not? Chief Freer? Yeah,
Lord.
good. We can get that out of there. You happy with that, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Yeah.
It is a bit more money than our Bell hubs, but they are significantly more reliable. So the Bell hub was pretty unreliable because it's no different than a cell phone signal, right? So
Here's a big one coming up. 45, recommendation, town of Plympton-Wyoming undertakes a detailed facility audit of the Kamlaki station to identify the work areas required by the firefighters to perform their station duties, including the design of accessible washrooms and gender-specific or general neutral washrooms, shower facilities, and change rooms. That all done, chief?
It's ongoing.
Ongoing.
If I may, Mr. Chair, we have, DCs and I have discussed this. As you well know, the province has come out with presumptive legislation as well as the federal level for firefighters if they develop certain cancers. Which then takes it into the realm that we have to make sure that we've set up all mitigating factors to ensure the mitigation of exposure to carcinogens, which is relatively difficult to do in our profession. But so there's certain accepted practices as part of a cancer prevention program that we're going to be exploring so that we can update those facilities, not just to meet those requirements, but also to meet the requirements of firefighters being able to fully clean and decontaminate themselves prior to them returning to their residence.
Didn't we just do some washroom upgrades?
We did shower upgrades and that at Wyoming Hall. That's all done, right? Mr. Freer? We got both women and men's washrooms at Wyoming Fire Hall. Kamlaki, we don't have both, right? We just have the,
We have women's men's washrooms, but we have a shower in the men's washroom only.
nothing in the women's. Now, we're budgeted for that, were we not, for 2023?
We have a ton of budget for you.
So the money's there for it. And we do have a lady firefighter.
Norma, is that one of the projects that we got an AODA grant on? So I remember we applied for it, whether or not we got it, I can't recall.
I don't think so. I think that was just for the accessible doors and everything else.
I think that's why it didn't go ahead this year, because we didn't get the grant.
Yeah, there's some money available there, but I'll be honest, that money is probably not gonna be enough to accomplish what we need to do. So I think again, we're gonna have to really take a look, maybe bring somebody in that knows and say, okay, that we need to do this, and we need to do that. It's really changing the way we, fires that we're fighting are changing significantly. The byproducts of those fires and the chemicals that we're being exposed to are there forever chemicals. They're PFAS, a number of other chemicals that our predecessors, yes, they dealt with them, but they didn't have the same level of knowledge and maybe not the same level of exposure. So certainly, we have to change with it. And that means that we have to bring those fire halls up to a certain level of up to dateness, if you will, when it comes to that. Like the ordinary old washer and dryer is not going to work in bunker gear anymore. We need a very specialized tool called a washer extractor. So I'm again I'll be looking at that for next year. And those type of things That's probably the most expensive upgrade, to be honest, but it's still one of those ones that we have to look at. And if we're gonna do this, I think we should maybe lump it in and try and figure out how we can do it. Kimlaki Hall is significantly lacking on some of those resources.
So if I may,
Theirs haven't been installed.
so when you're referring to, there's a lot more that firefighters are exposed to, this comes down to what they're allowed to build houses with versus what they used to build houses with. With all this laminate flooring.
So most products out there, when we build, now we're using a lot more petroleum and plastic-based products. Plastic is petroleum, right? So to give you a little idea, we always talk about this with flashover, but just to give you an idea of the amount of petroleum that's used in, say, your couch. In the 80s, a couch would burn at about 800 joules. Joule is just a form of energy used to say the energy that the couch is releasing as it burns. Now they're looking at couches burning anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 joules. So we're releasing a lot more heat and as such, a lot more byproducts of that combustion. So we're seeing a lot more situations where firefighters can, now, having said that, we do have better protective equipment than we've ever had before. But we're still seeing a lot of situations where firefighters are being exposed to a lot more carcinogens. Then you bring in things like electric vehicles. Right? Electric vehicles don't use gas, but they certainly use a lot of petroleum products when they're built. Right? So again, that's what's on fire.
We allowed all this to happen.
I can't speak to that, ma'am. I'll respond to it.
On item number 45 there, we've talked about this extensively about Kamlaki having the ladies shower facilities and I thought it was happening and budgeted for, so I like, we need to prioritize that.
We certainly need to have a conversation about that.
So we'll just leave that with you, but yeah. Okay, 46, recommendation of future fire station designs incorporated diesel exhaust extraction systems. Wyoming has it, right, Chris? Mr. Jordan?
We have individual diesel extractors on our diesels, on our vehicles there, so.
Okay, so that, does that complete that item? It's because it says for consideration in short and medium term.
It's done.
For future fire design, so.
If we were looking at a new fire hall, then we would incorporate that, but that's kind of a moot point. Because if we look at a new fire hall, if that's something we end up just looking at, and I'm not saying that we are or not. But that would be incorporated in the design anyways.
Required.
So I don't understand why that point is on there.
Yeah, it's kind of a futuristic dream.
Well, in all fairness, if I may, I think our previous fire chief had talked about it because it was a necessity somewhere. But I think it's done already.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's there, because it's an old.
Kamlaki uses a type of scrubber on their exhaust, so that removes a lot of diesel particulate. And then, of course, we have the extractors in the Wyoming station. So, and we have to be careful. Diesel particulate is one of the leading causes of firefighters getting brain cancer. So it's something that we want to be on top of.
So does the Kamlaki station have an exhaust then system for it, or is it just incorporated into the exhaust of each truck?
Right, I think that's what.
And it's incorporated right into the exhaust system. It's ward diesel filter.
Yeah, I think it was the new truck solved the problem.
So this is a futuristic request. So are we gonna do anything about it or?
I think it's a mute point. I really do. I think it's something that could be removed from the list.
It is and it isn't, because it's not just diesel exhaust, it's also the CO2 that the exhaust creates. So where in Wyoming, you have the hoods that you put over the exhaust, which would extract not only the particulate, but the CO2. In Kamlaki, if you left all the doors running and the trucks going, you're still gonna have a buildup of CO2. So maybe that's not necessarily clear on its recommendation. Because it's not just for the particulate, it's also for CO2.
So do we not have CO2 monitors through Century Fire?
You have a monitor there, but you won't have an extraction system. So Public Works, we have little cones that go over all exhausts. It pulls all the exhaust out. I think Wyoming has that as well. I think Kamlaki currently doesn't have that. So that might be more what that's going towards than the particulate filters in the trucks themselves.
Sure, I appreciate what you're saying. but the monitor advises you when.
Everyone would have a CO2 monitor, yes.
When you shouldn't have that much CO in there.
Shouldn't,
And
but monitors
what
fail.
is the remedy procedure if that monitor should trip?
We're not gonna treat it like we do another COLR, we're gonna pack up. And go ahead and, I'm serious.
But on the same note, when you guys are starting the truck,
Pack up on our gear and we're gonna treat it, and we're gonna vent the building. Right?
So I guess that's the question, how do you vent the building to?
so right now, you'd have to open your doors to vent the building, correct, DC Jordan?
We fire the trucks up, the doors are already on the way up, so
So you're not doing a lot of maintenance with the trucks running in the
I
hole.
don't do any maintenance.
All the trucks.
So if at some point, so I know why one big reason Public Works has it, because we put plows on, we do a lot of maintenance in the shop, you fire them up. And you warm them up before you go out into the blasting cold snow,
Sure.
so that's why you have the hoods there. But if the fire department's not operating with the doors closed, it's not as essential, but it may want to stay on this list, because it is something that maybe. If that process changes, you may need to consider it down the road. So it's not an immediate action item, but something to keep in mind.
Okay,
Well, absolutely, I agree with that. Your perspective is pretty sense to me, so.
okay. Okay, so that's completes it. So we wanted to go over them tonight. This is a first meeting, so that you already knew them by heart anyway, so to speak. So it gives us an idea. I don't believe we need to do that at every meeting, but if there's an upgrade from the district, to yourself, Eric, you can tell us at a meeting that we've done that item or completed, but I don't want to go over it every meeting.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, we'll, any changes, we'll let the agenda reflect that we have to review it right on.
Thank you. Everybody agree with that?
Well, I think a lot of this stuff will come to us. Or recommendations or ask.
Exactly.
And for documentation purposes, it might not be a bad idea to just have the full list come back annually, just so you can say. Show that we checked it off, because if it's coming individually, it's hard to chat with the public, whereas if we have the big list on there and they're all crossed off. You can show that we've done it and how we've done it.
Yeah.
Annually may not be a bad idea, but definitely not every meeting.
I concur.
4.2 Bell Mobility After Hour Phones. Whose item is it?
I can get to that. So at our last meeting, on the payables, there was, Bell Mobility and after hours. So people were asking me what was this for. I talked to finance, and that's a group bill. So it includes both Public Works and the fire department. So, the amount that I was including on the payables was that whole bill, not the individuals for fire. But when finance coded them, they would have gotten coded to Public Works and to fire. So your payable didn't actually represent what was truly being charged to the fire GLs. So moving forward, I'm gonna get that bill in a broken up form, so it's not gonna come as after hours. It will be each of the trucks.
Sort of have a more true reflection of the
Yes.
expense.
Yep, it was just a miscommunication between finance and myself, so we've got it sorted out.
Thanks, Ella. 4.3 firefighter recruitment. How are we making out there?
Absolutely, I'm gonna let the district chiefs probably answer this, but we've been having ongoing conversations about this.
And I got a list together, I just put a group together of a couple people, officers that go through them and then start the interview process. That hopefully we can get that all done by the next 2 to 3 weeks, so.
When's the school start again in January?
I think it's gonna be January this year. Have you heard anything?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard.
Haven't heard anything. I know they still got another class for their current recruits next month, so. It definitely won't be till the start of the year, so.
Can we, just a question, I'm not trying to do your job, but if in fact you do your interviews, you find some of these people you want, can you go ahead and hire them? And I know your past has said, well, with no second, so they can't go to, because it's
Just so they're done. We can get them on board, everything else, there's things we can do. I just didn't want to have somebody hired in March. And the school's not starting until October, November.
But in this case, if there's eligible, we can get them on board and get them doing something,
Exactly.
even washing trucks or do something. Or work towards their license or whatever they gotta do. Okay, so Because it seems to take a long time and we, I don't know who's leaving and who's not leaving, but I'm sure there's people, senior people gonna be leaving. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What date's that again?
So
Nothing, I don't even pick the date. I just scared Keith Campbell when I told him 6 months. So.
Oh, yes, yes, Kristen Rodriguez.
So to the chief, is there a process when, like, the district chief makes a good point, you don't wanna, but you also don't wanna lose them. either.
No, absolutely. So this is a conversation we have had on several times about the recruiting process. Certainly, I think the first step right now for us is to get the names. And then we can look at, in this situation, I think one of the things we have to be aware of is, we may bring on somebody that's already certified. Right? So if that's the case, then that's gonna change the dynamic of the amount of time it's gonna take to be able to make them put them in a position where they can respond. Right? There's other factors that are play. Generally speaking, if we bring somebody on that's fresh and new, what we want to do, and this is part of the previous points that we discussed, is we want to have a process in place that saying these are the objectives they must meet prior to them getting their pager. So I'm new, so we've only had these conversations now. I had them the second day, so it's on my mind. But certainly we're gonna come up with that procedure, and then once we know that, we'll know generally speaking how long it's gonna take to put somebody on. The other part of that too is how many we recruit, right? If we're bringing on, in this case, we're looking at 4 for Kamlaki and 1 for Wyoming. That's 5 total. That's worth us taking the time to certainly generate training and everything else. Whereas if we're only bringing 1 on, we may be further ahead to incorporate them into our current trading schedule, right? So it's gonna be, it's gonna based again on those circumstances.
What, another question on that one. We put I know we got an advertisement, general advertisement out there, but we don't go to the colleges or we don't go anywhere and say, hey, Plympton-Wyoming is looking for volunteer firefighters, especially with,
Usually the colleges and everything else, those guys are applying everywhere. Like I had a stack, what we get 30 applications or something else.
We get more than enough. I
I
don't.
think we had 12 that lived in Plympton, even lived in Plympton, Wyoming. Okay, out of a big stack of them, so.
or the farm groups.
We get more than enough through our website. I really don't think we need to actively pursue to find people. I getting more than enough qualified people.
That's good. That better ask the question, because I was asked the question, especially like, how do you recruit ladies? What are you doing to encourage that? I have no idea.
Well, and if I may, that is something, again, a conversation that the DCs and I have had. Is our recruiting, are we going out, and I don't want to say we're going out of our way, but are we doing an adequate job of recruiting people from all different, diverse backgrounds, right? And genders. So certainly that's something we want to explore as well. Over 50% of our population is female. So are we somehow indirectly discounting them? I don't know. I don't think we are, certainly not from an intention standpoint, but firefighting traditionally is not, looked upon by a lot of females. So certainly there are options there that are available to us to start looking at getting more of both genders to apply. And I think that is something that we have talked about and we will be exploring.
Thank you.
I do know our neighboring community, I believe, recently they did a firefighter for women type exercise, so it might be something.
So
Because they're trying to encourage more diversity but actively doing something about it. Because it could be just a subconscious.
and we actually there's a lot of programs out there. There's one out there called Camp Molly that a lot of organizations have adopted. It was done by who's female chief, or who's now the female chief of Kingston Fire and Rescue. She started as a deputy chief in Mississauga, and certainly those programs, but they're there to also to encourage young females. They're usually teenagers from 15, 16 years old to 18 years old that would be interested in a career in firefighting. Actually, when in my previous location, if I hadn't left, we'd have been running those this fall. In St. John's, we would have been the first ones in Newfoundland to do it, so. That's certainly something that's been weighing on my mind, and I'm looking for an opportunity to kind of put that in there. So it is something that we are looking at.
And I believe the fire department included their female firefighters in fire prevention week. And I think showing that the young children that it's not just firemen that are there is a good start to let them know that there is opportunity above and beyond that.
And further to that, the firefighter who was absolutely fabulous. She did such an amazing job with those kids. I was able to help them out for a day, and my also a big thank goes out to DC Jordan, because he arranged all that and he did all the legwork on that, so he deserves a bond.
Fidel over there too, so.
So certainly my hat's off to them for that, and getting her enrolled. When I spoke to her about a public educator course, she was all over it. So DC Freer informs me that we have one running in the later on in the fall, early winter. So if she's available and the positions are available, I'm gonna take the opportunity to throw her on that, just because of that, one of those reasons.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked that question. I think it's important. Okay, moving on, 4.4 working document. There's not much on there. It's in your package here, but I wanted to put on there. We wanted this on there. This is a firefighter's working document. They can add to it, they can remove from it. It was taken off for a while. We wanted it back on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Put that back on. So for you, Steve Eric, it wouldn't hurt to go back and look at the original one and just go through them, and we've eliminated a lot of it, but it'll give you an idea what some of the concerns were at the time, and so we can maybe avoid them for the future.
If I may just jump in here, this Saturday we had live fire training out at the training center. Again, thanks to the folks that arranged it. In particular, one of our captains did a great job. One of the things that we did focus on at the end was decontamination. And I personally got out there and scrubbed all the firefighters, so.
Because after they took the bunker gear off.
No. But.
The visual I'm having right now is not good.
Yes, it was very exciting. But certainly, those things are starting now, where we've had a conversation of where it was going to become normal practice, right? That decontamination, they're going to be actually circulated with a exposure report, even though they were training smoke. So then the standard is now they will fill out an exposure report and it'll be retained. This is all going back to the presumptive cancer legislation. So I think we're not only accomplishing that, we're actually putting it in practice.
So I'm just trying to understand what these. If I see this as I don't think I've. How does it work? Like, it was a working document?
So again, it goes back to a standard operating guideline. So those things are documents that say this is the best practice or the accepted practice for that particular avenue. So for example, we talk about decontamination a lot. Big word, we use the word decon all the time. But again, when we do that, we have a standard operating guideline that will be there, will show that they are supposed to, at the scene, do gross decon, and you do gross decon this way. Then when you return to the hall, you're going to do this with your bunker gear, and it's going to go through this process. And you or yourself, you're going to go into a shower and do all that stuff. And then you're going to have, and we'll even to a point, as we get further in it, we'll have the firefighters have individual areas where they're going to be able to keep toiletries and a clean set of clothes. That's part of that program. So
Yes, no, I am sorry.
that'd all be incorporated into an SOG or an SOP.
No, yes, sorry, I understand that. Sorry, I wasn't conveying very well, maybe. This document that we're getting presented with,
Oh, yeah.
you'll get presented with it every.
Well, I would assume,
Or.
I can't answer.
Others updates.
These
Is what I'm trying to understand.
these documents, working documents posted on the bulletin boards at the fire hall, and the firefighter can add to it or remove their item if they choose. But if they have any issues that they can't deal with, especially through the chain of command, we strongly express the chain of command here. The working document, if they add something to it, it'll be brought to us here. And if it's added here, we'll see at each meeting. And we'll discuss that item.
Okay,
So
so,
we're not gonna do all, well. Not
okay,
much.
so just like any changes that happen to it will come back.
Yeah, so if you look at this one here, they talk about some things that happened in September of 2026 SOG is completed. So again, that's in progress. We're again looking at those things as well. So that's why I addressed that one specifically.
Yeah, and that's why it's from 2022. Now, so going forward.
Well, if they come up, obviously, we'll bring them to this committee.
They have to come here because it's kind of a,
No,
it's kind
I
of
get
a
that part. I'm
higher.
trying to understand how it's getting.
So if I may, this one is from January of 2023. The document has not been updated since then. So that's why a lot of this may seem out of date or repetitive. I don't know that the firefighters have had anything to add or if the document's been available to them. So moving forward, we can make sure it's posted in the halls. That way any changes are.
Certainly, I think that's a great opportunity for them to have a voice.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on here, where are we at? Down to the counts 5.1. Let's have a look at the August payables.
You go be first.
Okay,
I think.
and that was moved by Christian Rodriguez, second by Gary Atkinson. Fire Exec Committee receives and approves the payables for August and September. So any discussion? Dear Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question on the August payables. I see two lines there with Enbridge Gas for the August Fire Hall Natural Gas in Kamlaki. One is 145.89 and the second one lower at the bottom is 79.94. I'm just wondering, is there a mistake there or was there
It's August.
August? Yes.
That was probably a mistake on my part. One was probably for June or July and the second one
Oh, okay.
might have been operator error.
We see it in other committees though, where you get 2 months worth of utilities in one bill, just because when they're received or put through the process, so. It's not unusual to get 2 months in one. payable. But we will review to make sure it's not there.
Thank you, Mr. Sabansky.
That's the only question.
So far, I got,
Oh.
everybody else is jumping in.
Just as a side note, I haven't lit my barbecue this summer. My gas bill goes anywhere from $60 to $120 month to month, and nothing else is changing in the house.
I'm the same.
Because you're out by the lake, remember? Bad cell phone and roads, I've heard that comment.
And
You
gas.
get gas in Wyoming or?
Soon.
Any
Yeah,
other
that's right.
questions?
Well, yeah.
Any other questions on the payables? My meeting's getting out of control here.
Hang on to it.
Yeah, you got the floor, Mr. Mayor, anymore?
Nothing, everything else appears to be okay.
Oh. Kristen, do you have any questions? You do? Go ahead.
Oh, here we come.
Only because I don't understand some. Understand. So on August. I had the fire hall field meter at 7004. What is that? Is that our meter update replacement?
If I may, the Kamlaki Fire Hall has 2 water meters, one for the inside of the hall. That one's for an exterior separate service.
So, but what is it? Like, is it a?
So it's a water service.
Oh, it's a water service.
So because
The water. bill.
2 meters, 2 meters at that fire hall.
Meter coming in with the regular water supply, so the kitchen washroom.
Okay, yeah.
Then we have a 2-inch line coming in that we use to supply our trucks.
Okay, thank you. And then the TD visa. Although it has all the things that were charged to the visa, it's just lumped into one thing, so it's just kind of hard to know. There. Like acute network solutions, for example, like what portion of the cost was type thing. Is there a way to do a breakdown on those, or is that the way you normally?
So if the committee would like to see it as each individual visa receipt, I can start doing them that way. Just for time saving, I do it this way first, like for myself, but I can break it out further if that's the wish of the committee.
Well, the way I look at it is just that we're breaking everything else down. I just don't.
The other ones are broke down because they got one bill, one invoice. The TD is a month's worth of invoices, like your Visa bill coming in.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so.
I have to break it all down at work, so I get it. I get it.
This is for both halls, what you're, right, the TDV for both halls.
Yeah, I can speak
She-
to a
it's
couple
noted as both.
from the barn fire we had on the Confederation line, the Domino's Pizza, the Tim Hortons, a couple other firefighters that were reimbursed for ordering in pizza. We were there for half, I believe, overall. So, yeah.
I just, it's nice to know. You have to, I'm not arguing whether you're. Or not. Okay, on the September. So we already discussed the question on the fire truck. And you. And the fire marshal's public fire safety council. Prevention wheat kit. So what did that?
When we go to the schools, we hand out materials all the time. For years, the commercials come as they provide all kinds of materials and everything else, but they have fire prevention week kits that design more for the kids and everything else that, so that we buy, that we're now buying. There's gonna be another bill coming for that because I had to buy more, but we actually could buy two kits per school. 10 kits all together, so.
And then, so do you do presentations at school and hand these out, or do
We-
you just drop them off?
We drop them off, so we do talk with the kids. We went through 404 students, I believe. That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That actually not Thursday. But anyway, we get all the schools, all did that for me, that got the classes, the sizes, and else. Each one comes with a little, we give them a little bag for trick or treat, and then we put all the goodies in. And then inside some coloring books and that, but then we put them in each in a box and we take them to school. So we're not handing them out at 9 o'clock in the morning and disrupting the teacher's class. They'll hand them out at the end of the day.
Makes sense, yeah. Okay, well, that's cool. Like that. And you obviously didn't have enough. Which is a good thing. Needed more.
I will, but I'm doing a deer or moose hunting. I haven't been around since 2017. I get my head wrapped around. I ordered this stuff and I'm not gonna be enough. And we'd had budgeted enough for it, so.
Yes, moose hunting is happening Wednesday. You're missing out.
Ready, I know.
Yeah.
Not later.
Is that all, Chris?
No, I have, besides the moose, I have more. Questions? Okay, this is just not nitpicking, I'm just offering up the Pure Later shipping. Just so you know, have you ever looked at Canada Post? I do a lot of shipping myself, and I find Canada Post is the most, I mean, I can't believe the price difference. Canada Post versus Pure Later UPS, I should want to say that. For cost savings. Oh, who does the shipping? Sorry.
They ship it out of this office there.
We're shipping labels for the fire department. It's pretty easy for me to just do it all on my computer, slap a sticker on the package and set it at the front door and they come pick it up.
These are large packages.
Yeah, so just so you know, Canada Post does that.
For smaller things, I think that would be easy, but for some of the larger totes and boxes, I don't know if that would be practical to chuck them across, probably.
Have pickup service.
Oh, okay.
And you can get an online account. All the same thing.
More of a general operations question. So what we'll do is we'll look into it generally and
Okay.
see if there's a better value way that's just a.
Look at the dollar value in there that earlier is giving a pretty good discount to the town. I use per liter for 30, 40 years.
Okay, but just so you know, the only reason why I'm saying is it,
Yeah, there's other
I've
options.
seen big differences myself.
Yeah.
That's all.
Certainly worth least having a look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big difference. Um. I also wanted to ask about, on the county of Lambton. The miscellaneous fire radio costs, recording and lightning strike. So it was just the terminology of lightning strike that I didn't know what that meant.
So there was a tower,
Oh, there was an actual lightning strike.
there was a lightning strike that caused damage
Yeah.
to the county radio system, so that cost is. Wyoming's portion
Shared.
of the entire bill that completely repaired.
Okay. And then my final one
I
was,
saw that, Kristen, that, oh, can you check on that? Cause I thought we paid that previously.
oh, yeah.
You can have a look.
Yeah. 'Cause I remember the lightning strike being on there. I don't remember a second lightning strike being reported, but
Whenever I enter payables, it goes by vendor number and then the invoice number.
Yeah.
So if I already paid a vendor, and I try and enter that invoice number a second time, it'll flag it and say, you already paid this stuff. I didn't get that, but I can definitely go back and have a look.
there ain't been a second lightning strike I didn't hear about, so. Yeah.
And then my final question was preferred towing, the towing of two, it's probably two cars.
Yeah.
Um.
We have auto X training that. And they're,
Oh,
we call them up, they bring us in a couple of cars, we wreck them, they tow them away again, so.
And they're not really reusable afterward.
Yeah.
right. So you don't have them towed anywhere?
Good point.
How to get it in there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on the table? Okay, fire exec proceed. September, all in favor? Here, thank you. Okay, moving on here, staff report 6.1. 2024 fire exec committee calendar, worked by Ella Flynn, Executive Assistant Corporate Service dated October 4th, 2023, regarding the 2024 Fire Exec Committee calendar be received. The Fire Exec Committee approves the 2024 committee meeting dates, and that the approved meeting dates be forwarded on to the town clerk for inclusion in the 2024 council committee calendar. And that was moved by Gary Atkinson, seconded by Kristen Rodriguez. Ellen and I had a short discussion on this. These dates are as close to last or this year as we could get. I think we changed one, didn't we, Ella?
Yeah, one of them aligned with Thanksgiving, so it had to be bumped a week later. And I think November had to be moved because of Remembrance Day. But it follows approximately the same structure as this year.
So you have the calendar in front of you. If there's any issues, as you very well know, we can change dates at any time.
So just question, did we proactively add in special?
I did not.
Want to just wait?
Well, yes, because like, for example, this year, we just set the date this week because we weren't sure, you know, if it was going to be ready. Of course, we had the new chief coming along and
Right.
so I think we can wait till the fall and then we know a little bit more. We said it, we won't even know if it's ready.
Yes.
And we got to get our copy yet before that meeting date on the 26th. So,
Mhm.
yes, Adam.
So a lot of the other committees, what we'll do is we'll present the first draft of the budget to them in September, October, and then we'll bring back a second draft in no later than November. So you do have meetings in both October and November. Given that this group should all be here a year from now, hopefully, we will be able to
It'll be later, Chief.
produce the budget in enough time that is presented to you in October. And then if you have changes, it can come back to you in November for final endorsement.
So, and thank you for that. I guess the concern for me is we should be setting aside like a meeting for budget, not including it with other items, and that's why I kind of was asking the question, but I guess we can determine how efficiently we're working by then to see if it
And we can look at that too, because one thing that both the chief and I noticed by looking at this year's budget, it's quite large for the amount of value it is. So like what was done with the public works and a few other budgets over the years, we're gonna look to, not this year necessarily, but next year, reduce that. Part of that process would be in August-ish, you'd bring a draft of what your budget would look like in the new format. So what I did for the Parks Department is I showed them their old budget in like mid-year, and I said, if we were to go to a new budget, this is what your current budget would look like. And it reduced it from like 8 pages down to like 3, and condensed the lines much more accurately. And then if the committee reviewed it, if they liked it, they endorsed it, or they suggested changes, and then we brought the changes back. And then that's the budget you would work off of come October and November.
Oh, I see. So we're gonna be able to review whether we like that new style or not.
You would be looking at whatever that new style looks like mid-year, not at the last minute. Because if you're not liking that style, then we kind of find the style that the committee can endorse. And then we do the budget in that format. So I think budget process with our group here will start quite early next year, because we'll be wanting to adjust all those lines down to a more digestible grouping of lines.
And like for this year, we like to go through them line by line, as you very well know, so. That's why we waited and set the date, and we'll get copies, what date we're gonna get our copy of the fire budget.
As soon as get it.
As soon as you can get it, I'd say that's soon enough.
And the joyful thing about that is where parks used to go line by line and needed a full 3-4 hour meeting to do it. You can go line by line in a much more reasonable pace, because you're not going through every 50 cents or $100 on a budget. You're grouping them into operational clusters instead of per item. That also gives the firefighter flexibility. So let's say 1 year, they know that they have purchases they make on a biannual basis, but they have other purchases that don't line up with that. So instead of having to take something into a budget every other year, take it in, take it out, take it in, take it out, you have an operational line that covers those specific types of items, and then that line stays flat other than inflation. And some years you're going to be a higher on the line, some years you're going to be lower on the line, but it's that line itself stays flat, and then you make those purchases that are accounted to those lines a little more consistently, so your budgeting is a little more consistent, so it's not jumping around.
No, I appreciate what you were saying. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So
But I do appreciate what you're saying, so you don't have those bounces up those.
exactly.
Okay, anyway, if we need to, we'll set a date for the budget next week. It's like
Yeah.
this year, so everybody okay with the, Gary?
Just as an FYI, I may not be available for January. We can work around that if you have to change it, or I go without me, whatever.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I was saying, like for anybody that can't let us know, we'll try to include you, but we'll do everything in our file. We do have a couple options here
That's true.
online, but if you can't, we can change the meetings. It's not an issue, just request it. And we did that once or twice this past year. Yep.
Yeah,
I'd like to have everybody here.
If I may, if we know the mayor won't be there for that meeting, should we look to have it in February instead?
Do you already know, Mr. Mayor, that you won't be available?
All things being equal, I should be on a diplomatic trade mission to Montreal.
Diplomatic. That sounds like Secret Service stuff.
That's all I can say.
It's embarrassing. He's embarrassed to admit he's going to a Habs game.
Oh, is that what you were trying to say? That's fun.
You have paid for that one.
Well,
I'm gonna pay for that one.
you
You
wanna
I'm a
move
vac-
on and we'll.
Vacancy, yeah.
did. So we should,
Which feet here.
sounds like
We've got time to reschedule. Let's just keep the meeting moving. We have to follow, because we've always done it before. If somebody can't make it or things don't work out, we've just shuffled.
When's good roads?
April,
No, it's not till April. There's nothing in February anyways, right?
January.
Family Day.
Roma's in January.
So it won't be, Gary, if you find out that's exact, just let us know before we get the calendar finalized, because we can move it to February. That's not an issue.
And we can look at it closer to Dave. That might be a bad idea anyways, because your budget's come to council in January. So council's gonna be very busy already in January, so it may be worth looking to change that at a later date.
Okay, we'll have a look at that in the next short while. We won't bother with it tonight. There are ways to go here yet.
Just if you pass this motion, though, it's going to the clerk. Like
Oh, I
this
see.
and getting posted like this. So that's why I'm suggesting if you have to reschedule your January meeting, you can just want to put the February placeholder right now.
What about the
August
12th
12th.
of February? Just moving it in.
That's Friday.
What's that?
It's a Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. When's Family Day?
19th.
So the 12th, anybody?
Good. I don't think, no, I get no conferences on.
No problem.
No Habs game.
Okay, so let's move it to the 12th. Is everybody in agreement?
At this point, I have no idea what I'm doing next week, so I'm fine.
Okay, well. Okay, we'll move it to the 12th. You got that, Ellen?
I had one day, Mr. Chair, that'd be working nights, the August 19th meeting. I'm unavailable for, but. It's. Big deal if I can make it or not.
So August,
In office.
New starters. That time.
do you want to move it up to August 12th?
It's online.
No toolboxes.
Move it up because the 26th council meeting.
So August 12th, does that work?
Oh, work, yeah.
Yeah. Can you put the August one up there? Yeah, that August
Well, I
12th.
think there's a special events committee meeting that night, I
So
believe.
special event starts at 7.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
in theory could, as long as you attempt to be done in the 2 hours before it.
Oh, our new chief is gonna have everything just whipped right into shape, so.
it won't be a problem. We can move it to the fire hall anyways. Well, we got the electronics here. I guess we can't move it.
Sorry, your worship.
Well, just, I'm actively involved in both committees.
It's a long day.
So that,
We look to do July or September instead.
Everything in July. Okay, well, let's go the 15th of July then. You won't be here?
In Toronto.
Who's your deputy?
Jeez.
May I make a suggestion? Mr. Chair, why don't you move it to September? Because then that gives us that better flexibility for budget time.
So. If I may ask, Adam, you were mentioning you were gonna bring, this new version. So were you planning to do that in June then, at the June meeting? September's kind of leaving it, I don't know.
I think we can sit down and work towards that. That's 8 months away. So that gives us some time to recalculate it. I've already done it with the parks budget and I can sit down with Eric and the district chiefs to kind of go through the process of doing it.
What do you,
But like you said, you can always call a special meeting if you need additional time.
what are you working on the 16th of September, Chris? You know?
I will be on nights.
Oh, so we got the same problem there.
I'm going back to the 12th if we can, well, no, that's. You have to keep the meeting moving though to. move
I
it.
will do that. I will do better than I did tonight, yeah.
Well, we still had July, oh, no, we didn't.
Well, you see, if you move it to September, Mr. Chair, you got 2 months in there, then I know you, without a meeting, you said previously you'd like to have a meeting at least every other month.
I do.
Is there an opportunity to make it earlier in the day on the 12th of August,
Or,
like 4 o'clock?
Staff are already here, so that's at your discretion, Mr. Chair.
That's okay with me. It's-
Okay with you though,
We're
Chris.
available all day, yeah, that day.
Scott, you okay with that?
Check my calendar.
Nap
I
time.
think I'm clear.
Christian, you're the one that's worth.
Yeah.
The golf course, everything.
You okay with 4 o'clock?
well, I'll have to be, yeah. No, just,
I guess I
Have to
can
work real
adjust my schedule.
The business, so what the heck? Just do it.
is that?
You own the business, just do what you want.
Okay, so let's go 4 o'clock then in August.
Okay.
Just to recap on the change dates then, we're changing the January meeting to February the 12th. And we're changing the August meeting to July the 12th.
Is that what we were doing?
Sorry.
No,
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 August the 12th.
Oh, August 12th, sorry, wow.
at 4 PM.
Yes.
Friday afternoon meetings don't work well.
Is that right, Chris? Is that August 12th, 4 PM or?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, don't forget to add as amended to your motion, with the permission of first and seconder.
What are we doing again? We're going to February.
January meeting will be in February on the 12th. And then the August meeting will be moved to August 12th at 4:00 PM.
Okay, any other changes? Changes we're making here as amended, we're going to February the 12th and we're going to August the 12th at 4 PM. Okay, all in favor? Here. Yep. Once again, we can change any meeting, just let us know as much in advance as you can. Okay, number 7, bylaws, there's no items at this time. Correspondence, no items at this time. Correspondence recommended reading and routine approval. Moved by Kristen, seconded by Gary, correspondence related. Item A, related to recommended reading and routine approval for information items not otherwise addressed by resolution. Be noted as received to Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. Yeah, we were asked to put this on the agenda. I'm sure you've all read it. Do you have any questions? Yes, Kristen.
I do have one, question of the. Yeah. It's always stated that council only has one employee, the CAO. But in reality, and learning a lot about fire this year, we really have 2. So I don't understand. Maybe they need to update that saying.
I can't speak to that, but I do know that this role that I'm filling right now as your chief fire official it was mandated by the FPPA. Out of part 6. So I can't speak to what you've been trained or anything into, but certainly, yeah, my role is definitely one of those ones that we can't leave empty. So, yeah. Go ahead.
And it's more to the point of who's overseeing it. And it's council, and council oversees the role of the CAO as well. So it's really not, that's one. You, if you look at it.
Well, yes and no, I think, I work for Adam, he's my direct supervisor, right? I'm responsible to council for matters pertaining to the FPPA and fire and life safety. So I think that's where maybe there should be some clarification there.
It would be very similar to Safe Drinking Water Act. So as the outgoing Director of Public Works, as responsible to represent the owner under the Safe Drinking Water Act, ensuring that council gets all the information they need to make the decisions in regard to providing safe drinking water. And in those regulations, it says that I, as the owner representative, is directly responsible to council to make sure that you have the information you make appropriate decisions in regard to safe drinking water. So it's not necessarily speaking in regards to your corporate structure, it's more speaking in regards to your legislative structure. The chief's responsible to provide you all the information you need to make appropriate decisions in regard to fire protection. Director of Public Works required to provide you all the information in regards to providing safe drinking water to its citizens. So it's a little more legislative, so you're correct in some regards. You do have multiple employees that report directly to you in regards to legislated requirements, but administratively, you do have a set structure through the municipal act.
Sure. And I guess I go more to the hiring. So the only thing council is doing as a whole is the CAO position and the fire chief position. So I guess so that in that aspect of it, it's kind of
The fire chief
ambiguous, like it's just not.
position this time was hired as council as a whole because you didn't have a CEO at the time. In practices under the municipal act, typically the CAO is the leader of the hiring. They incorporate the members of the fire services committee or a formed recruitment committee typically.
Well, if I may. Your previous fire chief was also hired by the council as a whole, and I believe it is written in the bylaw that that is the council's responsibility. So that's the way I understand it from every Been through this year. It was just. It wasn't up, I wasn't trying to debate the whole thing.
And it's okay. 4 weeks into CAO role and fire chief role, we haven't come across that bylaw specifically stating how the fire chief is hired. Then if that's the case, that's what the bylaw says, but standard procedures through the municipal act is that the CAO is the leader of their HR processes. They hire your staff and your CAO. And in a lot of cases, they will have committee members participate in senior management positions, but it's not strictly necessarily required. But hopefully we don't need to have this worry immediately, so.
Ultimately, the direction of that particular communique though was to ensure that, and I think for the most part, this particular forum understands, but there are some municipalities that somewhat, certainly there is things misconstrued on who the fire chief is ultimately responsible to and for what. I think we have a clear understanding of that. But when it comes to certain things, like, for example, at the end of the day, it's your fire department, right? It's council's fire department. So you've chosen me to direct that fire department. So under legislative responsibility, I then would say, we wanted to amend the bylaw, for example. I would recommend that amendment, but it's ultimately council's responsibility to pass that amendment. It's my responsibility as the chief fire official to make those said recommendations. So I'm responsible to you legislatively, essentially as a subject matter expert in that field.
Well, I don't know what the bylaw reads. I don't have it, but you guys can. Look at that, I guess.
Hopefully, we don't need to look up who has the authority to hire a new chief in the near future.
I'm really hoping we don't have it. I don't know.
Okay, well, I know this is for information, but good. Okay, new business, where are we here? Okay, yeah, all in favor of that recommended reading? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving right along here, new business, now here's the service awards, there's the whole list there. Where did this list come? Was it you, Chief Jordan, that put this list down?
Listening for Rondella.
So I made all of the applications for our internal service awards. They're on every 5th year. And then the federal medals after 20 years come in 10-year increments. And then the provincial medals after 25 years come in 10-year increments. 5 years. So these were all the applications that I made this year on behalf of the fire department.
Go ahead, Adam.
And I want to recognize that I've heard council, the fire department and the firefighters loud and clear. There was concerns brought forth about the lack of a firefighters appreciation involvement in staff appreciation day. So again, taking on the role, I'm going to go back to my memory from budget time. At budget time, there was a discussion in regards to whether or not there should be 2 Christmas parties and 2 recognition nights, staff recognition, firefighter recognition. I know prior to 2016, those Christmas parties, best to my recollection, were occurring together, and the awards were handed out to both firefighters and staff members at that Christmas party. That changed directions at that time, and the fire departments had their own parties for a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott.
Fire department was invited to the Christmas party, but the fire department still put it on recognition usually in February, March.
Okay.
All by itself and did our awards and everything else. That was, then everything died with COVID and everything else, but in 2022 or 2022, I guess, last year, that we combined the other ones that we weren't able to put, but we were going to put something on the this first part of the year, but couldn't find a suitable location at the time and so.
So to kind of confirm that, during the budget deliberations, council decided at the time that they wanted to host the Christmas party and recognition night jointly for all staff, including firefighters. So it would be your Christmas dance dinner and awards evening for all staff. At the time, they did allow a budget for staff appreciation days. One separately for staff and one separately for the firefighters, as there may be separate interests. So my understanding is there's still budget in the fire department budget for a staff appreciation day. And there is some discretion between the committee here and the fire chiefs to determine how best to allocate that appreciation funds to their firefighters. So there is funds still available to the fire department to host a firefighters appreciation day, evening, however you guys see fit to recognize the outstanding work of your firefighters.
I don't remember the appreciation day part at all being separate in the conversations, but do you?
So staff, service recognition and tributes. Originally in 23, it was budgeted for 10,400. So that was to do their recognition night, appreciation Christmas. So we took Christmas out of $3,000. And so Christmas now will be all together.
Okay.
And the awards, I think, are given out that night.
That's my
So the money that was stayed there was $7,400. And that was for any kind of recognition and tributes or staff appreciation that they were doing.
I just thought that was for the other things like the golf day and.
No.
So I think that's kind of
The golf.
staff
I
appreciation.
remember that. part.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what they consider.
That's
staff.
what they call staff appreciation.
That's what the department chose to do for staff appreciation in 2022 was a fire department only golf tournament.
Which I thought they were gonna do again this year, because I remember.
But like, by the time I got out the book in the end of or end of June, they're looking for September, it was a good date, and I couldn't even get on their local golf course, so. Okay.
So. Can I ask a question?
Just one.
The staff appreciation day, you have it for the staff here. Why is it not all inclusive? With all firefighters and staff?
Again, for historically, they were carried out separately. The firefighters in 2022 did their golf tournament. And in the previous years, we did smaller lunches and adventures. I think this is a discussion for council as a whole, because it involves all departments. I think for next year's budget, we should have a discussion towards the end of this year in regards to what council wants to see for appreciation and Christmas party, and see whether a combined events for all is something that council wants to entertain. I think it'd be important to get the firefighters' feedback on that, and I think
So that's what I would go towards is, I don't even know if there's interest in the fire department, whether they want their own. Or whether they want more, everybody in that works for the municipality together as one. Like, I don't even know what that looks like, so. So it's good you're saying that will be a discussion that obviously at this committee level too, to understand what the fire department wants to do.
Yeah, like the biggest thing too, that was what the fire department did. It wasn't just firefighter appreciation, it was firefighter and their spouses.
Yes.
People can go to work and they got their spouses singing, you're bringing lots of money home. Volunteer firefighters, if they don't have that, or their spouses or anything else. And I've lost people that I know darn well, it's affecting their family life and life saying out of here. That, and if they don't have that backup there, we haven't got firefighters, so it's really more. We're really appreciating the firefighters, we're appreciating the spouses that just as much, if not
Right,
more.
so that's what I want to understand, like, is it something you want to do separately or?
Yeah.
I just don't want it to feel divided, but if you're okay with that, oh,
and I think that's the mayor have his hand up.
You gotta come in on this one.
No, I think I think Mr. Savansky covered it. I think it'll be a discussion council is going to have as a whole and make that decision. We certainly want to. But I think the point is, there was never any money taken away from the firefighters. It's just unfortunately, Chief Jordan wasn't able to get their tournament booked,
yeah.
whatever they wanted to have for them, so.
And it was a tough year for all of us with transition, so a lot of things that we would have liked to get done this year didn't get done.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can make that better
Yeah.
next year and maybe do something to show our appreciation this year yet. And I think it's a good comment about the spouses and family. Well, there was a volunteer firefighter for 25 years, and the highlight of our summer was getting together with all the other firefighters. So I think it's important that family be involved, and maybe that's something we should look at corporate wide, or at least at a minimum of fire department wide. So I think there's some good discussions to be had, and I don't think we should be making that decision without at least having discussions with the group as a whole.
Yeah, when we had the staff appreciation day, I certainly got emails from firefighters. I'm not gonna read them to you, but I committed that I would have that discussion tonight. And I'm glad it was made very clear, and I'm gonna make it very clear that there's still money in the budget for appreciation night for firefighters and their spouses or whatever. It was not taken out, it was only adjusted for the awards. I think that's where it's getting mixed up a little bit. It was the fire chief that put on the golf tournament, had nothing to do with the council. We didn't, I don't think we even knew a lot about it at first.
You weren't allowed to go golf.
We were not allowed to even go to that golf tournament. So, and all our due respect for the fire chief, he did that for his firefighters as a team building exercise. They had backup fire departments backing them up, so they're able to go. So this appreciation night, the concerns and the emails that I got, why the heck, you know, what's wrong with us firefighters? You can't have an appreciation night with their spouses for us. We had it before. And they wanted some answers. So I think this is a great discussion. I think there's still money there. I think you still have the opportunity to do it. You'd have to do it quick if you're gonna get things booked because people are booking for their Christmas, but $7,400 there. You know, in the past years, we actually budgeted, I think it was around 5,000 for that. I know we went to Sawmill Creek. That type of an atmosphere was nice. Of course, it could be had at the Ag Building down here. Or several different places, so. To me, it's up. It's not up to this committee, it's up. to the Fire chief, district chief to decide what you want to do here. It's your budget money. It's your staff appreciation, but I think it's separate from the awards here. This awards is a combined effort. So it's up to you guys, but I think your firefighters. They're looking for some answers on staff appreciation for them and their spouses, so.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think that we've now got some clarification there. I think now it's just a matter of taking it back to our staff and seeing what direction they'd like to go in. And then seeing what's available, those opportunities to use that money that would best involve our families and I believe Chief George said it correctly. I mean, our families are just as much a part of this department as what we are as firefighters. And there's another point to that. We often bring a lot of baggage home with us after a call. And often our spouses are sometimes the ones we unload under, or, you know, offload those, not the back baggage, or, you know, in some cases, they don't necessarily understand that. And it's also an opportunity for those spouses to get together to, I don't know, complain about us maybe, but also have that little bit of engagement with each other to understand that there's a bigger support group of people.
And for next year's budget, plan accordingly. I think like the CAO said, let's decide what we're gonna do, what we're gonna have well ahead of time so that we're not running into this controversy again. I think that's only fair. Okay, we'll leave that with you guys. I guess everybody in agreement with that?
Absolutely.
Well, it started under the awards here, service awards, and I had it on my list for new business, but I think it was well discussed, so leave it with the fire chiefs and they up to them. Sure. Yeah.
So I just wanted to put it out there, Chief Campbell.
Yeah.
Or, we are coming up to budget time and things like that, and I don't know how possible anything is, but looking for new ways of revenue to help that, obviously, we're gonna have increasing costs, there's no doubt about it, and if we want to operate, properly, we got a growing. There was this, I can't even remember their name, but they're a company you can use for, trying to recoup some costs through insurance.
That's correct. It's called, the company called Fire Marquee.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
go ahead. Absolutely. Sorry.
No, if you're.
Yeah, no, I am familiar with Fire Marquee. There's also, we're gonna use that, but they're very specialized. They're only involved when certain incidents take place. For example, a structure fire, right? And what they do is they basically go after the insurance company on our behalf to get a certain portion back so we can cover our service costs. There's also other avenues that we've got to get a little bit better at evoking some of our revenue. Anytime we respond to a highway that is provincially owned and operated, for example, the 402, we can bill the MTO for operations as well. So certainly that's another avenue that we're gonna look at, making sure that we're following up with that stuff to generate revenue as well.
So that'll be presented.
Once we've had the opportunity that I've had the opportunity to reach out to Fire Marquee, and have that conversation, of course, we'll bring it back to you.
Okay, getting back to this, yes.
So and the chief said, and I did talk about increasing those revenues, because I know we've been falling behind on the MTO billings and other. And we think that once we're able to get the Fire Pro system upgraded, it'll allow the access to those reports easier and will allow the fire department to better be able to bill out with our staff. So it is something that's certainly on the fire chiefs and administration staff's mind towards a solution.
I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 90-day period. If you don't apply to the MTO, you don't get it. You're.
I can't speak, I don't know specifics about that, but you may very well be right.
Yeah.
But again, moving forward, that is something that's going to be looked at.
Okay, just getting back to these, the awards. Now, I know the awards are going to be done at the Christmas party, but what about the federal and the provincial? I see in the paper, those are several firefighters, Petrolia, where one of them got their federal nominations from somebody from the fire marshal's office, I think.
Normally, they do a bit more formal presentation. And I would suspect that Chief Jordan has been down that road a couple times and probably can tell you better than myself.
So
A lot of those weren't usually presented in council.
okay.
So,
The only awards we'll be doing at Christmas party are the first ones.
yeah, because it's actually that, 6 to 8 months, they told us, Ella, for the provincial and federal.
So I've received, I want to say provincial awards.
Oh, got 'em already.
Yeah, we're just waiting on the federal.
Okay,
If memory serves me correct, the last term of council, you did do a awards and evening for our firefighters to receive those medals.
that was one that was.
It was done during
You did your
During council.
during council.
And I'm not gonna mention any names or anything here tonight, but there were some questions from, and Gary, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some past firefighters that may not have been recognized. So I'm just not sure, exactly sure of the names, but. You know, the one, certainly the one I'm talking about, the triplets there.
Let's not go with the triplets.
So
I'm done with that.
That's still a question.
I think that also too, there might have been some discussion about some that had left the department and weren't recognized
Yeah.
for their service. Or even thank you at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know that for sure.
You're saying it's already been dealt with. Okay. I think it was
There was their first issue that. And everybody's complaining about this except the person that is deserving an award. And all they need is give me the times of service because I don't have them. He refused to for 3 years. So
So you're trying to give it something and they don't want you to.
he won't give me the time. He says he's got 30 years or whatever. I can account for 28.
Oh.
So give me the time that, and he's done it and. I've argued it 3 times and I'm done with it.
on the recording there, so. Okay, 10.4 there, the final one there, that we just put that in there for information only, 2023 Fire Prevention Week, it's obviously October. Sounds like you're doing a good job. Where are we at
If
now?
I may,
Yes,
again, I would like to just reiterate that Chief Jordan and Ella did the, I would say, pretty much 90% of the legwork on that, and they deserve the kudos for that.
So, the Facebook updates. Okay,
I did all that.
that was awesome. Very well done. And now it's municipal. So are you doing that too? Municipal week?
I am the sole Facebook guru right now,
You
so.
are, you're good at it.
You go, girl.
Yeah.
New business, Gary, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, just a quick question. We had fire school this past Saturday, I believe. How was our participation rate between the two stations? Do we have a good crowd?
We had 20 guys out there.
Well,
Usual, or Saturday.
Yeah, 19 participants, actually, no, 21. A couple, one had to come at noon and another one had to leave at noon, so I guess we would say a total of 21. So a third of the department was out there for live fire training. It was my first opportunity to witness the firefighters in operations, and my congratulations to you all. They've done, they're absolutely quite professional, and they knew what to do. I stood outside on the radio and I had to do very little work, so me being a fire chief, it's always nice to do very little work. I really, my hats off to Chief Jordan and Chief Freer for their team's efforts and how well they did.
Great.
Okay, we're in new business there still. Okay, Kristen, you in new business?
I'm just waiting for this.
No, you're
Your
waiting.
news business to be done. I mean,
Okay,
Oh.
okay, well then we'll let Kristen bring up the truck for new business and you guys your baby.
it's the motion. for-
Okay,
Chief
this
will
was moved
speak.
by Gary Atkinson, second by Kristen. The staff be directed to have decals added to the fire chief's truck. Brighten it up, truck number 10 as per concept A/B provided by Sure Signs. Discussion. Kristen, you got the floor.
Okay, so now I know what we're talking about. with the Pictures.
So there's been a past, I guess, some issues with the fire chief's vehicle. And certainly, I would agree that driving it, I'm much more comfortable with it being deckled. And certainly, it's an opportunity for us to show off our department and showcase it. And the option A and option B basically was just where the car 10 is. And we've chosen to put it at the front of the vehicle there. So we had a couple different designs. This one stuck out. And I believe it's gonna make the truck look like a really sharp response unit.
Well, I think the design is almost like a Ford design, and it's a Ford truck. When I'm referring to that, the windows, you guys kind of followed that same design, so it kind of looks cool. And I'm sorry, I don't understand the difference between option 1 and option 2.
So option A and option B are where the car 10 is. One was to put it up closer to the where the F-150 would be. And the other is to put it near the end of the truck. And the idea is it's separate so that it's just showing the call sign of that vehicle, which in this case is car 10.
So closer to the headlights.
Yeah.
Is the better, because to keep it on its own, you mean?
Just too bad it's a Ford, that's all.
Oh,
Hey,
Comment.
Oh, my God.
oh, and I like the back.
So, yeah.
Back
Yeah,
of it,
that's
if I may.
I
say.
go bring up.
Okay.
So I do know with those ghost stickers, because I did, that's what they're calling them, those stickers, whatever they are. I had seen the vehicle driving in the dark, and those ghost stickers, they're just green stickers that reflect in the dark, illuminate, basically. I think it is the color of them, but it was nothing to tell me it was a fire vehicle. But so do those come off then in this back piece? Because I know they were on the back of the truck.
Well, there's only one strip and it's across the top.
Yeah.
So it's going to remain.
Okay.
But the green and red that you see there, that's the NFPA standard for showing that, you know, to display that as a truck. So when, or a fire apparatus, so when the headlights hit it, that will also become very bright, very noticeable. You know, we do respond to a few vehicle accidents here and there, so it would prevent the vehicle from being unintentionally rear-ended, if you will.
Oh, I see. And there's nothing you can put on the back that says it's PW fire as well,
We
so.
certainly could. I believe the intent there was to make it so that it was as bright as possible without. I mean, but if, of course, if we wanted to put something on there on the back, we can. That, of course, we'll have to go back and design, and there'll be an additional cost.
I don't even know the cost of this one.
It's around, it's just around $1,600 to have all the decals.
And to add a decal back, I don't imagine would be that much more.
I don't know. The only issue that might delay the timeline, so we may have to take it in again to update that decal. We've been fortunate enough that we can get it in as early as Thursday. And so right now we have a tentatively scheduled for Thursday to go in. But if we would like to change the lettering at a later date, certainly we could do that on the back. I don't see a big deal.
If I may, I mean, they already have the decal on the side, so it's not like they have to redesign anything so much.
I would ask them, I'm sure it's not an issue. It would just change the cost of it. I mean, all we can do is ask. If they say they can't do it that day, then we'll take it at a later date and get it done. It's not a big.
So my preference, just I feel like it's important to have that identification on the back as well for visual. You have it on both sides. Obviously, you can't put it on the front. But the back, I think, is important.
What would you like to see there? Just
Well, like I'm saying, you already
the
have,
crest or-
you already have the crest design, so I don't think it would delay anything. Just adding that crest is incorporating it somehow in the back. I don't know how.
So maybe a half size crest compared to what's on the side door.
Yeah.
Put them on the bottom left corner of the tailgate.
Yeah.
Or just so it doesn't take away too much from the reflective striping, but it's
identified.
clear to which fire department is responding.
Exactly.
Gary, you had.
Well, I'm not really, I guess I could go with a small decal, but I think with the lights that we're gonna be putting on the vehicle as well. I'm not so sure that we would need a decal at the back, but I could live with a smaller one, but I think with the lights and then the proper signage at the back, this was indicated here. I think that would be suffice, but
Maybe a
I guess it's
quarter
up to-
size decal then, chief, would be okay, something
Yep.
big.
I'll see what I can do. I'm sure that that's not gonna be.
Put them on the back window.
I was just going to say, why wouldn't you put it on?
Or the back window.
That reflector, that's meant for a reason.
It's not changing your view.
Yeah, no, we can absolutely do that. And I've done that in the past for even my previous department. That's where we actually put the deco was in the corner of the back window. So.
I think that's a great solution. And it's to identify from behind what it is you're behind. That's so important. So I think that's important. So, and I'm sorry.
Yes, so just
With the light.
so to answer the chair's question, the current lighting system that's on the truck, it was designed for a particular purpose, to keep that truck, I don't know, unmarked, if you will, and that's not unusual for a fire service today. But certainly the size and the circumstances of our department don't really require that. So the lighting system there does not meet the current NFPA requirements. So I have already engaged one of our current folks that we use for our truck maintenance, Ontario Fire Truck, and they're gonna get back to me with an estimate of bringing it up to the standard. There's a couple reasons. Number one, it clearly shows that it's a fire vehicle. And number two, it's clearly visible from all angles. So when I approach an intersection, when we're responding, that'll clearly light up that I'm trying to get in there. And there's nothing worse than trying to go into an intersection when it's moving and they hear the siren. And so everybody's curious, but they're not seeing where it's coming from. And right now with the current lighting system, that could be questionable. So we have to bring it up to snuff.
Couldn't agree more. What is the current, where is the light?
Exactly. So we have indicators of blue and red in the front, in the upper window, a couple in the grill, and then at the sides and at the back, there's a couple of small LEDs. It looked like at night you can really see it, don't get me wrong, but it's not the standard. The other part of that is there's no traffic indicator on it. So if we are parked at a scene, there has to be some sort of amber lighting system that gives a direction. It's supposed to instruct folks as to what direction to go, or if it's a separate marking. There's been a lot of studies done. I don't know if you've noticed, but on our fire trucks, we no longer have the dual red beacons on the back. One is red and one is blue. And it's not just for the fact that we've gone to red and blue. Some places actually have red and amber. And the reason is because there's been a lot of studies about two different lights will actually draw people's attention, whereas two of the same lights will actually pull people into the back of vehicles. So there's actually a lot of science behind this as well. So part of that is putting those traffic indicators on there is so that it draws the attention to the vehicle, but in such a way that it indicates, okay, the mind is gonna work a little differently so that they know to move away from it instead of towards it.
So this is something on top. of the-
Yeah, it will be a light bar that'll be external on top of the truck.
Yes, I have seen some of those on some work trucks where they do have the indicators now to, you know, direct you away from that vehicle for a very good reason, for safety on the roads and everything. And so I like that, for sure. So is everybody okay with the little window?
Yeah,
We
back
have-
windows.
Do we have to amend that?
Yeah, the chair will just write as amended at the end of the motion.
If I may, the committee still needs to decide on concept A or B for where the truck and letters are placed. The staff has.
I know. We were happy with A, so if the committee's happy with A.
Yes.
Moving forward. Once again, yes.
For the chief, do we have to call it car 10? Can't we call it truck 10? It's
Car.
a truck.
That's a good. point.
And I think the tradition was before it was a car.
Yeah.
Last time was a car, but this time is a truck.
How about vehicle?
We can change it to truck 10 if you wish. That's entirely up to
Yeah.
Good point.
That's wrong.
we can just call it unit 10.
I would just put 10 on there.
Number
You
10.
never know, look at that guy, he thinks he's got a car, it's back up.
Yeah,
It'll save us 6 letters, which we can use to buy.
there you go,
So,
Okay, so it's number 10, and it's number A.
on a car.
As amended, moved by Gary, seconded by Christian, the staff be directed to have decals. Added to the fire chief's truck number 10. However, 10, truck 10, whatever you decide in the end, as per concept A. And provided by Sure Signs. So as amended to the above. Favor.
Did you add the decal?
As amended, yes. Thank you. As amended, it's all about back, and you can have as much red on it as you want. Okay, moving on, we're getting times moving on here. Where are we here? Okay, still on new business. Anybody else have any other new business? Chris? anything?
Mr. Chair, I just had just a couple events from since the last meeting, the fire department attended, the tractor pull. In Wyoming here at the fairgrounds, we had a couple firefighters provide suppression for that. The Wednesday or Tuesday before the fair, Plympton-Wyoming Fall Fair, we were at the Ag in the Classroom with all of the local students that were bused to the fairgrounds. We had participated in the Plympton-Wyoming Fall Fair, the parade, providing traffic control for the parade as well as first aid standby for Saturday and Sunday. Already discussed fire prevention week. Our pump testing is completed the first week of October here as well for all of our frontline pumpers.
Mr. Jordan? Robert, you got anything to know? No. Christian, you have anything or?
No, I discussed my new business ahead of new business. apparently.
Mr. Mayor, Gary?
This is considerably shorter than Mr. Rodriguez's, but I have.
Steve Eric?
I have nothing further, sir.
Adam? Yes, sir. Okay, I would like to just put one item on here, and I'm not gonna get into a big discussion on it, but down the road, once Eric's here for a little while, I would like to have a discussion on our firefighters association. Once you're here for a little while and you get familiar with your firefighters, you hear what you want to hear, you need to have a discussion with them, and they've requested that, and you and I have talked just a little bit about that, so we'll just
It's a good idea.
put that on there. Other than that, I don't have it. So, moved by Gary Atkinson, second by Christian, the Fire Exec Committee adjourns until October the 26th, 2023, our budget meeting. Follow the chair. All in favor? Gary.